Meeting of the Council to order, and welcome everybody to this Council meeting, our first Council meeting. We have everybody present. The Lord Mayor is online, which we can still do, so there's no apologies nor leave of absence. I advise all present that audio and video of this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the community via the City of Hobart YouTube channel, and for the purpose of the recording, elected members should wait for the Chairman to announce them before speaking, and I request that all mobile devices be either turned off or put to silent. So we have everybody present, as I said, no leave of absence. Firstly, I'd like to do acknowledgement of country. So in recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the City of Hobart was built, the Muwinina people. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania, La Trawitta, who have survived invasion and dispossession and who continue to maintain and strengthen their identity, culture and rights. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice and pay my respects to elders past and present. Item 2 is the 2022 election motion acknowledging the receipt of all declarations of office made. Can I have somebody move that, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey, seconded by Alderman Barakis. I'll put the motion. Oh, we don't have any debate. Oh, is there any debate about that? Just like to congratulate everybody again. So I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The motion is carried. Item 3 is confirmation of minutes.
Happy to move.
Who moved that? Councillor Harvey?
Dead heat.
Seconded by Alderman Barakis. Thank you. Any discussion? No discussion. I put that. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. It's declared unanimously. Item 4 is transfer of agenda items. Do we have any transfers? No transfers. Item 5 is communications from the Chair. So this is an acknowledgement of former elected members, Alderman Jeff Briscoe, Alderman Damon Thomas, Councillor Jax Fox and Councillor Will Coates. Being the first ordinary council meeting of the new council, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge those former members of Hobart City Council who were not returned at the election. Alderman Briscoe was elected to council on the 31st of March 1994. Since then, he served as an elected member for over 28 years and is currently the second longest serving elected member in the history of the council. A former chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee and City Planning Committee, Alderman Briscoe also served on a number of council committees throughout his years as an elected member. He was a member of a number of special committees, including the chair of Battery Point Foreshore Access Way Working Group and a member of the Wellington Park Management Trust. Alderman Briscoe was involved in many projects and proposals during his time as an elected member, perhaps the most notable being his strong advocacy for the proposed Battery Point Walkway. As the consummate committee representative, Alderman Briscoe in his last term did not miss a council meeting. So Alderman Thomas. Alderman Damon Thomas was elected to council on the 30th of October 2009. He served as the city's 67th Lord Mayor between 2011 and 2014. He was a former chairman of the Economic Development and Communications Committee and a former co-chairman of the Finance and Governments Committee. Alderman Thomas was a member of and chair of of a number of special committees, including the Housing with Dignity Reference Group, the Wellington Park Management Trust, the Hobart Glenorchy Public Transport Corridor Committee and the Lunar New Year Celebrations Working Group. He was involved in a range of projects and proposals during this time as Lord Mayor and as an elected member. He was a strong advocate for affordable housing and fostering our international relationships. To Councillor Fox. Councillor Jax Fox was elected to council on the 5th of November 2018. They served as a member on several council committees and special committees, including the Active Travel Committee, the Access Advisory Committee, and as co-chair of the Housing with Dignity Reference Group. Councillor Fox championed many social issues during their term on council, including initiating the #PinkBox program to provide free sanitary products in Hobart to combat period poverty. Councillor Will Coates. Councillor Coates was elected to council on the 28th of January 2020 following the departure of former Alderman Tanya Dennison mid-term. Councillor Coates served on the council's City Planning Committee, City Infrastructure Committee and Finance and Governance Committee. He also served on special committees including the Superannuation Policy Group and was the council-appointed Tasmanian Water and Sewerage Corporation Owners Representative for the City of Hobart. So, on behalf of the City of Hobart, I'd like to acknowledge and thank you all for your contribution and serving the Hobart community. I wish you all the very best for your future endeavours.
I move that they be received and noted in the minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Zuko. Councillor Harvey, second that. I'll put that to motion to the meeting. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Items carried unanimously. Item 6 is notification of council workshops. We haven't had any workshops. Item 7 is public question time. Do we have any public questions? CEO?
No, Chair.
Item 7.2 is responses to public questions taken on notice. Can I have somebody move that?
Received, noted.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Seconded by Councillor Posselt. You're the person who asked the question. So there's no discussion on questions from public question time and on reports back. So I'll put that. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Items carried. Item 8 is petitions. Are there any petitions?
No, there are
no
none.
petitions. Thank you. Item 9 is consideration of supplementary items. Don't think we have any. Item 10 is indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest. Any conflicts? No. Motions of which notice has been given. So item 11, graffiti racism, and I call upon the mover, Councillor Sherlock.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm pretty sure everybody's read the rationale behind it, but just as a little bit of context, in 2020, the City
Can I have somebody second the motion, please? Councillor Elliott, thank you.
Thanks very much. We launched the Hobart Respects All campaign, which I was actually delighted to launch on behalf of the City, and it was actually as a result of what our staff had heard of experiences of racism in our community. One example is there at attachment A that's was on one of our public spaces that the City actually manages, and one of the ways that our officers identify that racism as well as prejudice and hate against other communities occur within our communities is by looking at the graffiti on the walls of the public places, especially the places that the City actually manages. Prejudice and hate graffiti is different to other forms of graffiti. It is designed to intimidate and strike at the very core of an individual's identity. It can leave people feeling vulnerable and unable to protect themselves. This can create anxiety, stress and fear, and it is at its worst, it can stop people from actually taking part within our community. Now, just as a bit of context, some of the photos that actually come to us is actually by members of the community. It also comes to us via Hobart City Council staff when they're actually out and about in our community. And usually, generally speaking, the process is to clean it, and generally speaking, it's not reported to police or any other forms that we have within the mechanisms that we have. So this particular motion is to try and address that. I haven't put within this motion that a report should come to the relevant committee. To my understanding, that may be a matter of process. It will go to the relevant committee portfolio in terms of the implementation of this particular framework. But I suppose just to be certain, perhaps I can ask the relevant director the question, once this is implemented or a particular framework has been set up, will this come back to the relevant committee portfolio so that we have a better understanding of how it will be implemented?
Through you, yes, we would do that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As a result, I didn't think it was relevant to note that within this particular motion, and I put that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Discussion. Alderman Zuko.
Yes, Lord Mayor, Chair. Many years ago, and I'm the oldest elected member on the council, we were discussing graffiti in general, and I put forward at the time that the council should look at an app that is available. It's a reporting app, and this council decided against it. So I'm not going to move any amendment, but maybe the officers can take it on board as part of the report that comes back, that considers potentially having an app that has all graffiti recorded on it, and we can be part of that program, and hopefully this can be part of it as well. And just so you're aware, the two elected members, I did want to call a point of order, it's all right. The two elected members in question that were attacked during the election, I did actually write to them both, because I understand very much what they go through. I know what I went through as a young man growing up, and I know sometimes what I go through because my partner is Asian. So I can understand it, and I think we should do everything in our power. And I think if we had an app that we could get our members of the community to actually send information to, be a good way of going as well.
Thank you, Alderman Zuko. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried unanimously. Item 12 is to hire trial. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. So, as we're all aware, the Council entered into contracts with... Would you like to move the motion, please?
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Sherlock.
So, as we're all aware, the Council entered into contracts with the hire e-scooter companies, which allowed them to operate on our streets and footpaths. And with their launch, we've obviously got a new mobility method available, but we also have new safety risks that they present, not only for the rider, but also for footpath and road users, many of those which are vulnerable people. And it also won't be news to anyone here, but we also have a risk under the Local Government Act to provide for the health and safety of the community. And that's what my motion is all about. I understand that the report on the trial is coming to Council soon, but I did want to take this opportunity as at the first meeting where we can present motions to bring forward a couple of things which I feel quite strongly about and which I've heard loudly from the community. So the first part of my motion centres around acknowledging that we have gaps and room for improvement in the information that the Council has available to it upon which to assess the trial. And I want to make sure that these gaps are filled. The gaps that I think that we have, particularly around accidents and injuries and property damage, and I would like to see us do more work in that space to make sure that when we're looking at the trial that we have independent and comprehensive data on not only the positives of e-scooters but also the downsides, of which there will be some. I feel that we're not doing our job properly if we don't make sure that the trial is assessing the full picture and that we haven't made full effort to gather that information from reliable sources. I note in the administration response that some data is obtained from Tasmania Police, and my understanding is that that's from the traffic crash reporting database. And while that's good to have that information source, personally I don't think that would come close to capturing the full spectrum of accidents and injuries would be reported through that. So that's why I'd like to see more attention given there. And I also note that administration talk about information coming from the hospitals and the Department of Health. And again, I'd like to see, as far as practical, the information that we get from those sources is able to tell us things like the number of emergency department presentations, the number of serious injuries and that sort of thing. I appreciate that that may or may not be possible because obviously the health system's under its own pressures, but that's something I want to see us explore. I've had conversations with multiple health professionals and community members, of course, over the past year or so, and from the health professional perspective, I am hearing a lot of stories of incidents where people are getting seriously hurt on the hire e-scooters, and that includes seeing firsthand a really quite terrible injury of a young person in their 20s who had been at Salamanca, had a few drinks and hopped on an e-scooter for the first time and then needed to have their ankle pinned back together. So I do think that we have a new safety risk that we need to make sure that we're appropriately managing. The good part about being a bit slow off the mark when it comes to e-scooters is that other jurisdictions have obviously come before us, so we do have the opportunity to look and see what's happening there and to learn from their experiences without having to go through the pain of it themselves. And the research is showing, that's coming out of the US and Europe, is that you're 3.8 times more likely to be injured on an e-scooter than you are cycling, and the risk of being hurt is significantly higher than walking or driving. There is movement on e-scooter policy all across the world, and for example, it is a serious risk, with 3 people dying in Australia in September this year alone from e-scooters. So I think it is something we have to take very seriously. The other part of my motion focuses on increasing helmet use, and this is an obvious goal to have. And I have spoken with one of the companies, and I am aware that there are more strategies they can implement to increase helmet use beyond what they are doing now. I understand that there are some strategies in place, but I think we need to do more, given that it really is the council that has brought these mobility options to the streets. So,
You have 30 seconds.
thank you. And finally, while I don't like nannying people at all, I think we need to really bed down a clear and strong policy of restricting scooters in the Salamanca and waterfront precincts. And I'd like to see a clear radius around there so that when people are finishing on a big night out, the first thing they don't see is a scooter. So, thank you.
Councillor Lohberger.
I'd like to move an amendment, if that's okay. Just read the amendment out, do I? Mm-hmm. All right. To point number...
Do we have a copy of the amendment? That'll be popping up on the screen in a moment.
I'll just push ahead, shall I?
Yes.
I just wanted to add to point 2, words to the end of Councillor Elliott's point 2, including insurance ramifications where the rider was not behaving lawfully and or was not meeting the rental requirements of the e-scooter company. I do think there are some issues there that we need some information on.
Are you happy to incorporate that in?
Yes.
And is the seconder Councillor Sherlock? Thank you.
Fantastic. And I'd like to add a new point, point 5, just focusing on parking, because I've heard a lot of angst from a lot of people in the community about the way these scooters are shambolically parked in an obstructive fashion. So the new point is, point 5, requests a report from officers into A, the council's ability to issue parking infringements, brackets tickets, to the owners of rental e-scooters when their vehicles are parked in a manner that obstructs safe use of the footpath by pedestrians, including people pushing prams, people with limited mobility, and people who rely on wheelchairs, mobility scooters or other mobility aids. B, the level of penalty recommended to positively change this unsafe parking behaviour. C, the possibility of council parking officers reparking rental scooters in a less obstructive manner after issuing a ticket, and the potential extra cost to the council if officers carry out this service. And D, a map noting all the footpaths in the City of Hobart that are too narrow to park e-scooters in any manner without obstructing safe use by all pedestrians.
Again, are you happy to incorporate that into your motion?
Yes.
And the seconder's happy? Right, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dutta.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a few points. Firstly, I want to commend Councillor Elliott for bringing this motion and the amendments made by Councillor Lohberger. Secondly, when I read the comments made and the statements made by the staff, it appears that this motion becomes redundant. It becomes redundant because I think the staff is already doing that. They're in the process of collecting all the information and data so that you and I would have evidence-based data to make our recommendation or decision on this. The third point I make is this, that the Local Government Act Section 65, the CEO gives us advice and recommendation. She hasn't done that because she hasn't received qualified advice or information, and hence she is not in a position to do that. And the final point I make is this, that under the meetings procedure 2015, local government meetings procedure section 21C, I recommend that this be put to the appropriate committee. Thank you, as a procedural motion.
Thank you. So that's a procedural motion
Deferral? Do we have an appropriate
Yes.
committee?
for deferral.
Appropriate committee under 21C.
Yep. So,
It's a notice of motion. I'd like to see the meeting.
sorry,
So,
Alderman
just-
Zuko, I'm just seeking advice. So, I'm happy to accept that as a procedural motion because it will be going presumably to a workshop. And CEO, do we have a workshop coming up in relation to this as a matter of priority? Yes. Okay. So I'll take that as a deferral motion. Can I have somebody second that,
Point
please?
of clarification, if I may, please.
Councillor Passelt, thank you.
Clarification.
Thank you.
Just on meeting procedure, if I wouldn't mind.
Yes, certainly.
Just through you to the appropriate, or even Councillor Dudder. Is Councillor Dudder referring to section 21C of the meetings procedure? Can I just get clarification as to what section of the meeting procedure Councillor Dudder is referring to? I just need an answer, please.
Procedural motions, section 20.
Section 20, I thought you said
1C,
21.
that the matter of the motion be referred to a committee. Section 21C.
Yep. So that's part of the meeting.
Referred or deferred? This is a deferral
Referred.
motion.
It's referred.
You see, that's.
I've made a decision.
I'm sorry. You are actually. It's been referred. Not what you're doing, Madam Chair, is using the procedural process. This is not a procedural process because the matter is not being referred to a committee. The matter is actually being deferred to a committee, and that's not what 21C says. I'm sorry.
Deferral motion.
Thank you for pointing that out, Alderman Zuko. I'll just seek advice in relation to that. Is it 20B. So 20B is that the matter be deferred.
Yes.
Is that right? Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So that the matter be deferred. So since we're having a workshop, I'm going to hear this, put this as a motion for deferral. We have that moved by Councillor Dutta, who seconded that. Councillor Posselt. So,
Before we vote, just when will...
sorry, Alderman Zuko, can I make the ruling as chair?
That's all right. I'm just trying to help.
If you wouldn't mind, thank you.
I just had a question about the date of the workshop.
Councillor, CEO?
Through you, Chair. Through you, Councillor. So in terms of dates for workshops, the only one we've got set to date is the 15th of December, and we've got 2 items scheduled for that. The e-scooters would be coming to a workshop early in the new year, as early as February.
Right. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Some chair as well?
Yes. Yeah, we don't usually, when we have a procedural motion,
I think the deferral motion takes precedent.
That's,
Was there a review? Was there a 12-monthly review due on the whole scooter
Yes.
process? I think. And
Yes.
do you know what that was?
Thank you for your question, and again, through you, Chair. I would need to just confirm that date with our Director of Connected City, but it was certainly coming to Council early in the new year. There was an extension provided under officer delegation earlier this year in regards to the extension of the trial, but there was a formal report due to come to Council early in the new year.
okay, so we have a motion for deferral. I'll put that. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
No.
And we have a show of hands. Those in favour? Raise your hands as high as you can, please.
Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Purcell, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, the Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Those against?
Alderman Zuko, Alderman Barakis and Councillor Elliott. That's carried, Chair, 8 votes to 3. No, sorry, 9 votes to 3.
1 votes to 3.
Clarification, if I may, through you to the CEO, in regards to the matter being deferred to a workshop. Is the workshop open or a closed environment?
CEO.
Through you, thank you, Chair. Through you to Alderman Zuko. Obviously, that's to be determined at this stage by Council. Later on in the agenda, you'll have the item there listed as number 13.
Thank you.
For clarity, just in terms of workshops, if Council were to go down the path of workshops, they are going to be matters that are reported to the Council agenda, as you've seen from tonight's agenda, where notice of workshops is a standing item of the agenda. So it's the intention that the agendas and also the detailed minutes would be presented to each Council meeting and matters referred through to Council for determination. Thank you.
Further question, I actually asked, will the workshop be open or closed? I haven't had that answer. I've heard what will happen, but I haven't been advised unless the Council determines in item 13. Is that what the CEO is saying?
So thank you. If you refer to the meeting procedures policy that's attached to item 13, you'll note the role and function of workshops. They're not technically closed because they're not technically open. They are not formal committees of the Council. Thank you.
Just for further clarification, that will be reported up at the following Council meeting.
Correct.
For public discussion.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. All right. Now and I'm quite happy to accept questions for clarification. I understand that most people, there are new committee members and council members, so please, if you have any questions, I'll be leaning on you tonight. Item 13. So we have the item relating to governing Hobart, and I'll ask everybody would read this, but I'll ask firstly, we have somebody move that and second it, and then we'll have for purposes of discussion, and then we'll have the CEO explain things. So
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Sherlock seconded. Thank you.
Madam,
over to you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that under section 16.1 and 16.9, that I move that the standing orders to meeting procedures are suspended for debate on item 13 under section 16.1 and 16.9 of the Local Government Act.
Do we have a seconder for that? Alderman Barakis, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? No. Show of hands. Those in favour?
Alderman Zuko, Alderman Barakis, Councillor Elliott.
I think Councillor Sherlock might have.
Oh, no,
Just a show of hands for those in favour, please.
Alderman Zuko, Alderman Barakis, Councillor Elliott.
Sorry, I thought your hand was up.
That's okay.
Those against?
Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Purcell, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor. That's lost Chair, 3 votes to 9.
So we have, I'll ask the CEO now speak to the motion and introduce it, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's quite an exciting time to begin a new council term, and with that comes some key recommendations about the future governing model for the City of Hobart. It is good practice at the end of each council term, and that being each 4 years, to really do a comprehensive review of the governance framework that really underpins the good governance of the city. Obviously, a lot changes in the course of 4 years, but moreover, a lot changes over the course of 10, 15, 20 years. And it has been some time, through you, Chair, to elected members, that we have actually undertaken an extensive review of this kind. So it is an important time for Council to really consider at the outset how it wishes to govern, how you wish to work together, how you wish to receive information and advice from council officers. It's within that context, Acting Lord Mayor, that we've put together a report that outlines a new model going forward. This model essentially is underpinned by a range of contemporary practice across Australia, both in the context of a capital city role that this council plays, but also in some of the other larger city councils across the country. It really does go about setting a path toward a governance framework that also includes additional steps as it relates to community engagement. So it takes council closer to realising its aspirations as a council committed to governing around a community engagement model underpinned by IAP2, and that you'll see outlined in the report as it relates to the introduction of portfolio committees, which would see council consider the formation of committees that actually include community members as part of the governance model going forward. So in summary, Acting Lord Mayor, I think it's fair to say that the model set out is our best advice to you as officers for consideration, of course, of you as elected members as a new term of council. We're proposing fortnightly workshops. These workshops would be run formally by officer reports, so there'd be an agenda for each of these fortnightly workshops with a briefing note prepared, so 1 or 2 page briefing note. They would be reported at the next council meeting, so each month you'd receive reports from workshops. Matters for council determination will all come to council for determination. The proposal is that we move away from a committee model where committee decisions are made by committee, not by the whole council. This sees us have workshops where we literally do that. We workshop items that would then be presented to council for formal consideration and endorsement. I've mentioned already the introduction of portfolio committees, and they would meet quarterly, but also on an as-needs basis. If you were using a committee to do some additional community engagement, it might be around a housing policy or a particular strategy around healthy Hobart, or an economic development policy, or an activation, whatever that might be. Then you would also consider, as part of this model, delegating all decision-making regarding planning to a fully delegated committee of planning. So what that means is that you delegate authority that would meet on a fortnightly basis to act as the planning authority, and we're recommending that that committee be made up of 12 being members, 12 elected members of that committee that would meet fortnightly. And then, of course, council meetings unchanged, albeit that their cycle moves to monthly instead of fortnightly. So that's essentially the model being proposed. It really is about ensuring that officers are providing you with all of the advice necessary to inform decision making, that we engage with you at the beginning of a process rather than at the end of a process, and that's very much the intention of the workshop model. It is about early exploration of key issues, hot topics, as well as key policy and strategy development that the council might consider going forward. So that's the model in a nutshell. As is good practice, Acting Lord Mayor, we would propose that we do a formal review of this. We'd obviously be getting your feedback on how this is going for you as a model regularly, is to improve the way that we work, but we would seek to ensure that we had at least a 12-monthly review of this model and make any formal changes necessary. And of course, that would be a formal process underpinned by some analysis from yourselves about your feedback, but also in terms of how well decision-making's gone in this new environment. We'd then report that through to the Chamber for consideration with some recommendations going forward. So that's it in summary. Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Discussion.
I'd like to move an amendment, and I can...
Sorry, Alderman Zuko, I'll just introduce you.
Oh, sorry, I thought... Yeah. Just like to move an amendment and provide a copy of the amendment. And the amendment will read: Council workshops are to be open to the public, live streamed and minuted, excluding the following workshops: commercial in confidence, legal matters, staffing matters, and yearly rates and budget determinations. I so move that amendment and reserve my right to speak.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Elliott. Have some advice on that in relation to the purposes of a workshop and that discussion in relation to a workshop, CEO, please.
Thank you. And through you, Acting Lord Mayor. So the intention of having workshops, some would recall in the old system that council has in fact met informally before, and they were things that we called briefings. With workshops, it's actually a requirement under the Local Government Act for workshop matters to actually be listed and discussed at council meetings. So that's why we've called them workshops, to ensure that there's that level of formal reporting through to a council meeting. They aren't things that are proposed to be open to the public because they are about information sharing and information forming. They're not decision making. So it's not like a committee where you get reports and you're required as a committee to make a decision on the night. They are opportunities for officers to come to elected members early around key matters and for discussion to be free flowing. And the results and any outcomes, i.e. officers need to provide additional information ahead of formation of a council report, issues of concern, an opportunity for elected members to raise matters that have come up in their with constituents or issues that they have for themselves. These are things that are discussed at the early stages as a matter of course to help then inform officer reports that would then penultimately be considered by the council. So whilst there's nothing to preclude these being open to the public, they're not formal meetings of the council, and they do reserve under the Local Government Act a mention as it relates to the reporting on workshops to the council meeting, but they are not formal meetings of the council, therefore not decision-making in nature. Acting Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sherlock.
Yeah, sorry, just a question through you, probably to the CEO, Chair. In the past, since council has been going on, what is it, 100 and something whatever years, have we actually done this? Have workshops been open to the public, and then since we implemented the ability for it to go online, have we made workshops available to the public?
No, that's not the case, Acting Lord Mayor. In fact, nor have briefings. Briefings have been held on a number of matters, as have workshops, but they've not been reported to council in most cases.
Now, just for the purposes of this motion, we have quite a number of parts to the motion which I'd like to take separately, but I'd like to firstly deal with Councillor Alderman Zuko's amendment. So, is there anybody who would like to speak to the amendment?
Just briefly.
Can I ask a question on the amendment?
Yes.
So it's through you to the CEO. So number one, is the workshop model used by other councils around Tasmania? And two, do those councils have their workshops open to the public?
CEO?
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor, and through you, Lord Mayor, for a response. My understanding is that a number of councils have, over a number of years, run workshops. My understanding is that they're not open to the public, not only in Tasmania but also, of course, on the mainland as well. They are considered to be early decision sort of forming sessions that are between really elected members and officers of the day, Lord Mayor.
Did you want to say anything else, Lord Mayor?
I guess, is there anything preventing an elected member from consulting with their community on papers they might receive for a workshop and before a workshop, so they can bring those discussions or those consultations with their community to a workshop for deliberation?
CEO?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There's nothing precluding elected members from doing that unless, of course, the matters have been declared confidential by myself as the CEO under the Local Government Act, and there will be times where I will, as will officers, prepare briefing notes for discussion at workshop that will be confidential. So no, there's nothing to preclude elected members from discussing matters that will be raised at workshop with community members. Although, as I said, really the intent here and the recommendation is that this is about elected members being able to work alongside officers to progress matters in a constructive way to help inform policy and strategy development, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to speak against this motion.
The motion or the amendment?
Sorry, the amendment, because it really detracts from the purpose of the workshop. And as the CEO has said, this is a place to be creative with the topic. And if you've got to live in a fishbowl and you've got to think about everything based on people watching you and using that information via YouTube, then it's going to change the way you speak at a workshop. So a workshop's a place where you can be creative, where you can think about the possibilities without fear that someone's going to record 2 seconds of it and then put it online, and then that's the discussion in the Mercury the next day. And a good example was when the Lord Mayor and I talked about car parks in Hobart. And it was during the Infrastructure Committee, and we were just saying, well, what's the future of car parking anyway if suddenly there's a big drop in people driving because of other alternatives? And we got around to, well, yeah, it might be a time at some point in history where we end up selling the car parks off for other purposes. And the very next day in the Mercury, the headline was, Council to sell car parks. You need a safe space to be able to explore the topics, to be able to talk with officers who want to be speaking frankly to you, to have experts come in and be part of your portfolio, to have community members as part of your portfolio. And they're not going to explore the creative opportunities and go deep into topics if there's a fear that, oh, well, everybody's watching at home, and whatever I say, I've got to really temper it because I don't want to be seen to be to be saying things that are ridiculous or out of control or whatever it is. But I like to think that the workshops are a really safe space for us to have deep and meaningful conversations about what's possible for Hobart without thinking, I better not say that because it'll be taken out of context because there's people watching online. So I don't want to have our workshops live streamed. I want the outcomes and the results to be part of council decision making in the chamber, but I don't want to sit there thinking, well, people aren't going to give us their full attention or their full input because there's the potential that it's being live streamed and they might get nervous about how it's going to be used. So I'd like that the privacy of the workshop to be retained so people can be confident that whatever they say there, it's like Chatham House rules. And then once we've started to form up some decisions or some ideas, then that becomes the public knowledge that can then be brought forward through the process to council meetings. Am I kind of on the track here? Yep, so glad you agree.
Oh, thank you. And look, without entering into a debate, I mean, I think I need to be clear about the recommendation is that it's a workshop style. That's what we're proposing.
So I'd like to keep it as a workshop.
Just a question, Chair, through you to the CEO. With regards to the amendment that has been moved, I just need a clarification. So this portfolio recommendation, is it substituting the committee? If it is not, it is in a different format, is it?
CEO?
So through you, Acting Lord Mayor, I think we need to be clear about the difference in terms of what's being proposed in the report. So what will exist if Council considers and adopts this new model tonight is that you'll have fortnightly workshops that are not like committees. They are workshops where officers will come and present early thinking to you, discuss ideas, get your feedback. We'll take that away, and then it still goes through to a council meeting. What you're also being asked to consider tonight is the introduction of portfolio committees that would meet quarterly or as required. They are still not the same as what the committees were that you had in place in the last term. So in other words, they're not delegated in any way, they're not decision making. Again, they're about ensuring that we're engaging with community members who have got a content or sort of interest, lived experience in a topic, and the topics are outlined there, things like city economy. So again, they wouldn't be a formal meeting of the council. So they're one input into council decision making in amongst a number of others. So the formal decision making of the council moving forward in this report is only the council meeting as it exists as a whole council, and of course if you consider delegating the powers to the planning committee, you would have a planning committee that would have full delegation. They're the only two decision-making bodies that you would have in this new model going forward. The workshops and the portfolio committees are about decision informing and being able to sort of workshop matters with elected members and community members if they're involved in a portfolio, for instance.
Further discussion on the amendment?
I just had a question for the CEO Chair. Okay. The existing committee level situation where public can do deputations, would that still stand? Obviously that wouldn't be standing for a workshop situation, would it? Nor, of course, for the monthly full council meeting. I suppose what you're going to say, that would be at the portfolio committees, which is a quarterly meeting. I just wonder if that's going to be enough time for people to be able to do the questions and deputations traditionally been done.
So it's around delegations, not only planning delegations, it's other delegations to committee?
Deputations.
Sorry, deputations. Thank you. CEO.
Sorry, I'm happy to answer that. So thank you. So the formal process for deputations, and my understanding, certainly just in the time that I've been here, albeit short, is that most deputations have actually been to the planning committee. So the planning committee deputations will still continue because it's proposed to be a delegated committee of the council. Other deputations can occur through council meetings, but also through, raising matters with elected members or indeed with staff. Questions without notice would still be able to be received at workshops, for instance, and reported through to council meetings. So, but council could receive deputations at council meetings by suspending standing orders if it so wished. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Further discussion?
I reserve my right to speak. I'm speaking to the amendment, not the motion.
For the amendment, yes. Okay. Go ahead.
In 2021 meeting structure, council workshops were introduced as required. We had dates set, 3 were cancelled, 1 a month if required. Workshops were used to discuss predominantly very important things and things that were of relevance, such as commercial and confidence, legal, staffing, and yearly and rates. Maybe the Taste of Tasmania was thrown into it because it's got confidentiality to it. In 22, we introduced 2 workshops a month. In 22-23, we are introducing 23 workshops. But we are reducing the amount of public input in our committee structure by 37. In this current term, we have 97 open meetings, available open meetings to the public, where they can make deputation to committee, they can come and listen to the way we debate in not Chatham House rules, because I am transparent. And I believe a number of us have made that statement over the time, or whether we stood that way. to reduce the amount of council and committee meetings by 37 and then take them into workshops, all we are doing is having more closed meetings. Because all that's going to happen is, at that Chatham House Rules meetings of workshops that we are planning to have, it's only the report that will come here, not the debate, not the discussion, and not the input. If that is how this council wants to operate going forward, to deny the public 37 meetings less for the public to log in, to the public to listen to our debate, and for the public to have an opportunity to make a delegation to this council, not quarterly as you've been told by the portfolios. We are totally, absolutely doing an injustice to being open and transparent to the community, and it's not what I stood for at the election. Be it may, I want to just say this. Workshops are being used more and more by a lot of councils now because they want to deal with matters behind closed doors, then get to council with practically a decision made. If that's the way democracy works, well then I've got it totally, absolutely wrong. Also, in respect of this motion, surprisingly, one of my colleagues in the Glenorchy Council, namely a former Lord Mayor of this city, or the Deputy Lord Mayor of Glenorchy, actually moved for workshops to be put into the open environment in Glenorchy. So it has been pushed before. And it's surprisingly that it's a former Lord Mayor of this city who has pushed it in another council. I'll say to all our elected members who've been around the table for a long time, and those new elected members, if you honestly believe that your role here is to be open and transparent to members of the public in an open environment meetings, and it is your intent to have those workshops under Chatham House rules. Now, if anyone understands Chatham House...
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
That was my phrase, Chatham House rules, so I'd rather you not use it in this discussion because it was what I said, it's not in the report.
That's not... Thank you, Alderman Zuko. If you'll just keep your seat until I make a ruling on this point of order. Thank you. It's not a point of order. Carry on, Alderman Zuko.
Thank you. You see, Chatham House rules are things that my esteemed friend Mr Kelly would know about when you're negotiating a business deal with an organisation. You get to the table, it's Chatham House rules with lawyers and everyone there, and nothing goes out of the room. So if that is the intent of our workshops, which has been stated, then I think you all got it wrong. I will make this point now. I will only attend, I don't have to attend workshops under the Act. I will only attend workshops that have legal matters, staffing issues, yearly rates and budgetary determinations, and matters of commercial in confidence. I am not and will not attend any workshop that is going to have discussion, part decision making at the expense of 37 committee meetings that we are taking away from members of the public. I don't have to.
30 seconds.
I don't have to attend under the Act workshops. I will not, other than these, and I'm not going to be involved in Chatham House rule meetings. So everybody better think about it.
Further discussion. Councillor Posselt.
Thank you, Chair. Just to respond to some of Alderman Zuko's claims, I'm satisfied with the information that's been provided to me that these workshops do have a degree of transparency and accountability for both elected members and the council to the general public, in that some of these workshops will have members of the public there. No one will be constrained by confidentiality unless there is a specific matter which the CEO delegates as confidential, and that we are involving the community in the discussion by having these workshops, and also by having the portfolios where we have key stakeholders coming along, giving us expert advice to assist us with our decision making as councillors. So I dispute the points that Alderman Zuko has made with regards to transparency and accountability. I think it's important as somebody who is voting against the amendment that I at least clear up that I believe that there is enough accountability and transparency that is already built into this system. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sherlock. Councillor Sherlock and then you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify some of the claims that were made by Alderman Zuko through your chair to the CEO, are the workshops actually going to be a part decision-making forum?
No, thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. I've made it quite clear that we're talking about matters that are about elected members having the opportunity to workshop literally matters with officers that would be presented to council for formal consideration, maybe weeks, months post a workshop. It really provides the opportunity for forming decision, not making decisions. So that's very clear, and that's very clear also in terms of the report. We've got a role and a responsibility as officers to provide our best advice to you, and in doing that, we want to bring things to you early so that we can sense check things that you're hearing in community and so on matters of policy and strategy development. That's the intent. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And just a further question. So the nature of these workshops is not going to be just limited to the topics that are contained within this amendment. Is that correct? Through you.
Thank you. So workshops, so the agendas will be put out. There'll be at least 2 items discussed at each workshop. So there'll be matters that we're probably usually in early development of. So say, for instance, it's a housing strategy or a housing policy. We'd come to you to workshop ideas before we started to do work on a housing policy, before we presented a report to council for consideration on the development of a housing policy. So in no way does it undermine the transparency of the process. All it does is engage elected members much earlier in the process than just receiving a report from officers into the chamber for information and discussion. It's also about ensuring that we are conducting other sorts of engagement opportunities with community as well. It might be that at a workshop, for instance, you might flag, well, have you thought about how we engage with the newly arrived community in relation to housing? In which case the officers go, you actually hadn't thought about that. Let's do that, understand who these people are, and come back. That would be included in a council report, presented to council and then into the chamber. I can't underscore enough the documentation that would be associated with workshops through to the actual council. So if we've got agenda items being considered at a workshop each fortnight, they would be reported each month through to council. So all of those topics for discussion, so let's use the example again of the housing strategy or housing policy, that would of course be listed, including a summary of the briefing note that was prepared by the officer at the workshop, and key meeting notes from the workshop as well would be reported through to council, as in fact is a requirement when we call them workshops under the Local Government Act. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Acting Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Just speaking to the amendment then, while I completely understand the points that Alderman Zuko is trying to make with regards to transparency, as has been pointed out by the CEO, it appears that this workshop style will actually make it that we'll become more transparent. We'll have more discussion around topics, we'll have more input from community, those particular agenda items will actually come through to council, and as a result we'll have more of a robust discussion within the workshop itself. So I'm really not sold on the idea that this particular style is now taking away from transparency. It's actually giving us more transparency in terms of discussing these ideas that are very important to community. So whilst I do understand the sentiments behind this amendment, having been to many workshops during my last term, The Crowther statue, for example, was a really, really wonderful workshop that we were all invited to. Some didn't attend, but it was a very robust discussion where I will tell you honestly and frankly, some of those conversations and comments made by elected members were very racist, were horrific, were horrible, and I wouldn't actually want the public to be subjected to those. So I think the workshop in and of itself is one of those examples where individual elected members can actually be open, frank and honest about what they feel about a particular topic. Then you can bring it back to council. As has already been pointed out by the CEO, it goes through that proper process, it follows procedural context, it follows legislation, and we do our bit procedurally, as well as having discussions frankly, openly and honestly. So I understand the sentiment, Alderman Zuko, but as per the information that's already provided to us, unfortunately, I won't be supporting this amendment.
Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I want to just speak to the amendment, but before I do, just thank all of the elected members that were involved in the quite in-depth discussion and deliberation about this new governance model. It is hard to have change, and this is a change for a council that's pretty much operated in the same way for quite a number of decades. And I think it's certainly, there is, as part of this motion, the factoring in of a 12-month review. So if we don't think that it's working for us as decision makers and our community, then we can review it and change it. But I've got to say, the committees, it was very rare to see a member of the public give a deputation to a committee other than planning. So it was really not the culture of this organisation to seek out briefings or even encourage people to make deputations to parks or infrastructure or a range of meetings. I can count on two hands in the time I've been on council and many committees that members of the public have been encouraged and actually undertaking deputation. So I don't think the culture really, the governance culture really did, was providing opportunities for deputations other than planning, which it's always been there and will continue to be. The other thing about the committee structure is that many committees were actually cancelled, and you know, even council members weren't really paying attention to what was happening at the committee. So I think there is a need for this revitalisation and some change. And I do reject the suggestion that there's less opportunities for public engagement, because on my calculations there will be potentially more than 70 opportunities for the public to engage in council decision making under this proposal, which doesn't really exclude portfolio committees, for example, making the decision as a group to make their portfolio committees open to the public. So the portfolio committee, say Creative Hobart, for example, may decide as a group that they want to both be open to the public and take deputations. So if all portfolio committees do that, that's 11 times 4 times a year, which is 44 opportunities. The planning committee will be operating 26 times a year, which is also taking deputations. So that's at least 70 opportunities, I think, if my maths is correct. But then also special workshops, the council may decide that we want to take deputations from the public. So say, for example, on the e-scooter material, there might be an opportunity, the council might decide that it wants to hear from key stakeholders as a precursor to the discussion, further discussions with officers and the presentation of materials. So I don't think there's anything in this new model that precludes deputations and engagement with the community. The workshop papers and minutes obviously are all coming through to council, but it is important the clarification that what we're really wanting to have is open and transparent decision making in particular, and workshops are not decision making and should never be seen as decision making with council when we all come together under the the rules of the council will be the key decision-making bodies as well as the planning committee. But I see that the model we have here does provide more public engagement. It's a new creative approach. We have the opportunity to review, and in no way are we excluded if we as a group of councillors or a portfolio committee want to make our portfolio committees open to the public. We certainly welcome to, plus invite deputations and really improve that culture of inviting the public.
Thank you. Further discussion. Alderman Bloomfield.
I'd like to speak against this amendment, predominantly because ignorance is the bane of good governance. Deciding and declaring that you're not going to participate in a workshop, its primary function is to educate us. It is to support us with direct communication with staff and others to ensure that we are best prepared to make good decisions. That is its entire function. It is not a decision-making tool. We're mixing them up. So I really think we need to bring this back to the table and understand that we're not actually discussing about something that is actually making decisions. We're simply getting ourselves ready to make good decisions. We need the right to make stupid questions. We need the right to learn, and we need the right to ensure that the staff aren't put on a pedestal to be the entertainment of YouTube. That's not fair. That's not what they're here for. So, frankly, I think we need the right to be educated, and I think this is the right way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dutta.
Thank you, Chair. Just a number of observations I begin with. Firstly, the question for me is, why is it that we are bringing this change? It is my understanding that the committee's structure wasn't really effective. It wasn't really working. And those of us who have been through that structure, we know that the planning committee did all or most of the work. Those of us who were on that committee. Other committees were competing to say, mine was the shortest, I finished in 10 minutes. No, honestly, if we are really genuine about this, we are simply looking at this particular model and it's not working. It's not effective. And therefore, we need to have the courage to say, okay, let's find a way, a model that we can be most effective as elected members to make our contributions, not that some elected member gives 20 hours a week and the other elected member only an hour a week. So I think we have generally asked ourselves the question, we have come to this conclusion, and the CEO with her team has made this recommendation. The second observation I make is this: are we taking away transparency and openness from the community? My answer to that, no, we're not. As already been stated, the function of the workshop is very different. The function of the workshop is to make sure that we are given the information, we are free to express our views, we are free to make ourselves a fool if we have to, and then not be worried that it is going to be reported somewhere on the Facebook. Are we going to be open and accountable and transparent? Obviously, absolutely, because this is the chamber in which we will be able to debate. We will be given 5 minutes, and if it's not enough, we will be extended for another 3 minutes, and we will have more time to debate it, to discuss it, and bring everything in the open, where the public will be able to see and hear and understand. And therefore, my final point that I want to make is this: while I appreciate the point made, I was trying to get a distinction here that we are not substituting the committee under the provisions of the Act with a portfolio that doesn't give us the same powers. But the suggestion and the explanation given is quite clear. It is not a decision-making body, and therefore I'm quite happy to go along with that and not support the amended motion. Thank you.
Alderman Barakis.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I've just got a couple of questions to start off with. Actually, no, I'll start with some preamble. I appreciate that we can't exactly compare the workshop system to the committee system. And I do appreciate that we've had some workshops in the past. We've had some, as Councillor Harvey said, some creative debate and worked through some issues. I do think, though, in doing away with the committee system, we are leaving a void in, you know, we've got the workshops and we've got committees and we've got full council at the moment. And we are leaving a void there that does need to be filled either by the proposed workshops, in a sense, or by council. For instance, and there is a level of accountability there that we, you know, part of our job isn't you know, just to make decisions for the city. It's also to be accountable to the public and the voters, and also to hold the council as an organisation accountable once again to the public. So just one question I had in regards to questions without notice. I know that's a process that's sometimes been perhaps abused in the past, but it is an important function that we have as elected members, to ask questions on the record and get answers on the record for the benefit of the public. If we don't have the Finance and Governance Committee or the Economic Development Committee or so on, when would we be able to ask those questions to get answers on the record, and where would they be?
CEO?
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. And I think just at the outset, to respond to your question, I think we need to be clear that it's actually not a requirement or indeed part of the Local Government Act. So the questions without notice actually arise from Council's committee terms of reference as it relates to the way that system worked previously. However, moving forward in a new model, it would be something that could be raised at council meetings, and certainly I'd be encouraging elected members to raise all questions that they were wanting advice on or answers to at workshops, and we could ensure that they are recorded in the minutes of workshops that are then reported to the council meetings. I think that would be probably the most streamlined and transparent way to tackle that, but I do think it's just important to note, just for completeness, that it isn't a requirement of the Act itself. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, look, once again, Chair, I think I appreciate with some workshops we do have a need to be able to talk frankly and fearlessly about issues. I know, you know, Parliament does that. Parliament does that on the record, but they are protected by privileges, which we're not, which is a whole other issue. But I think when it comes to the more, you know, the larger issues, say for instance, we, as Councillor Sherlock said, the Crowther item, which was a hotly debated issue, that did go to it went to a workshop, and it did then go to a committee where there was a fulsome debate that wasn't limited by, it wasn't debated in the form of 5-minute speeches. There was actually there's actually a back and forth discussion, people were asking questions, and it's all on the record. And I think there is a level of transparency and accountability that we will lose. Granted that the workshops will still get reported, I think it is important that the public does see how we engage with issues, not just when we're debating in the form of 5-minute speeches. I would hope that even if not the workshops, at least those portfolio committees are streamed. I think that is important so that we're able to be held accountable by the public. I think it's not just us being elected here as decision makers, and that's our only role here. We do have a level of accountability to the public in how we engage with issues and how we debate issues. So look, I'd like to see this go through, if at the very least for those quarterly portfolio committees.
Further discussion on the amendment? Alderman Zuko?
Okay, through you to the appropriate person who can answer the question. How many proposed council meetings is there in the new what do you want to call it? Schedule?
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, to Alderman Zuko. Under the Act, council's actually required to have one meeting per month, so there would be 12, given there are 12 months of the year.
Thank you. How many planning meetings are proposed under the new schedule?
CEO?
Look, I haven't counted those up for the 12 months, but essentially it's fortnightly.
Okay, let's say 24. It's 36. And how many proposed meetings will there be on the quarterly basis for the portfolios?
CEO?
Alderman Zicko, again, I'd need to count those out. And as I said in the report, and also just in terms of my introduction, there may indeed be more portfolio committee meetings. They're just proposed as quarterly at this stage, but I anticipate, depending on the terms of reference considered by Council in February, that they may be able to have additional meetings beyond those just quarterly.
That's 24, so it makes 60. Thank you.
Further discussion. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. So I'm in two minds on this topic. I can see the benefits of workshops from the perspective of early involvement in items. I can see that would be very worthwhile, and also the benefit of easier flowing discussion. I am nervous about the transparency issue, I think, especially when it's combined with the fact that we're potentially moving to monthly council meetings instead of the current fortnightly, obviously. And I'm also worried about there being a tipping point between where we're doing legwork in a workshop versus decisions essentially being made and then council becoming literally just a process of stamping that. And then the flip side as well, I'm worried about duplicating debate, where we have the same debate in a workshop and then have the same debate again when it comes to council. So, but something that caught my eye in the report under workshops with the CEO was matters. It was under workshops, the CEO's report 2.25, and it reads that matters for consideration will usually include updates on the more significant matters due to come before council, briefings on significant matters by external parties, briefings on the progress of significant council projects, finance, strategies and plans. And when I read that, that raised some concerns with me, because from my thinking, they're exactly the sort of things that the community would want to be informed about. So, and I guess what's also a little bit troubling is we're voting on a hypothetical, something we haven't yet seen. We understand the concept's been discussed, but personally I would like to see more it written down. Like, there's the governance framework document, but I would actually like to see the in writing exactly how the scope of the agenda for workshops, exactly how the business processes would work, when the tipping point is and what can be done in a workshop versus council. And so, yeah, in summary, I'm in two minds. I can see both, but I would not want to see a backward step in terms of transparency. Thanks.
Councillor Kelly.
Like Councillor Elliott, at least, I'm in two minds here as well. Councillor Duttor and Harvey bring up some excellent points about the free flow of not being under the microscope, I suppose, so much. However, a big thing I got in the campaign was this openness and transparency, and if the actual format of the meeting is not changing and there's no impediment to the flow of anything, I personally would probably defer in the first instance to having it open. There is the backstop. I've always been able to change that, so I personally think that in the initial stages, to retain this openness and transparency, even though there's some valid points, I would probably defer to keeping it open. Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, Alderman Bloomfield.
We're talking about portfolios, 144. It's per 12 portfolios, or is 11? And there's per quarter, and there's 12 of them. So there's quite a few to be done. And my understanding was, if I'm not to be corrected here, but members of the public... Yeah, I'm wanting to know how are these portfolios not public? Because we have public members in them, don't we?
Is this a question? You can't continue debate.
Oh,
you have to ask a question because you've already spoken on the amendment.
Okay.
So what's your question?
My question is, are the portfolios not public?
CEO.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. So they are public in nature in terms of having members from community on them, but they're not live streamed. That's not the proposal. That's not to say that Council couldn't resolve to do that when considering the terms of reference when we present them to you in February. But that wasn't what the officers were intending on recommending. They are committees that are simply advisory, that are made up of community members and the portfolio chair of the Council.
I just want. I'm going
Just
to
need to
speak.
clarify that my amendment is about workshops, not portfolios.
I'll just make a point. I just want to speak to the amendment, and it's interesting that 11 of us have spoken to the amendment, and usually the chair speaks last, Councillor Lohberger, so I hope you're not going to jump up and speak after me. But it's interesting that the person who hasn't spoken about transparency and openness is Councillor Lohberger, who has made an art form of asking questions in relation to transparency for various causes. Be that as it may, we are elected, and I don't think one of us around this table wants to see less transparency at all, and I don't think that's what this is about. I don't feel that we need this transparency. We do have, we don't need this amendment. I think it's folly to go chasing this amendment, because what we have is a proposal that has been tested in other councils and other jurisdictions across the nation. It means that we can have the discussion and we can have input from not only officers but members of the public. So I think this will aid in our decision making, and it is something that we can bring to full council for further debate. It doesn't hinder further debate. It just means that we are better informed in relation to how we go about our council business. So I think this is, it's change. It's quite difficult sometimes to have change, but I think this is a step in the right direction, so I won't be supporting the amendment. So we now put the amendment, so and Alderman Zuko doesn't get to summarise the amendment because it's just an amendment. So I'll put the amendment. Is everybody knows what it is?
Can we have it read, please?
So the amendment is that council workshops are open to the public, live streamed and minuted, excluding the following: commercial and confidence, legal matters, staffing matters, yearly rates and budget determinations. So I'll put the amendment. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against? No. Can I have a show of hands? Those in favour?
Alderman Zuko, Alderman Barakis, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Kelly.
Those against?
Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Purcell, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, the Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor. That's lost Lord Mayor, lost Chair.
Very confusing, isn't it? What was the vote with that?
1, 2, 3, 4 votes to 8.
So I'll now ask that we, is there any particular discussion around the motion as it stands? And as I said, we'll be taking each of the sections separately. Perhaps we'll start the discussion around the first part of the motion about endorsing the City of Hobart governance model proposed in the report, including these various portfolio committees.
Chair, just a question. So you're going to vote on each individual one, or you're going to vote on everything? Because you just stated that you're going to take them separately. Are you voting separately on each individual one?
Of part one, not of the committee, of the portfolio committees.
No, sorry, I'll rephrase the question. We've got a recommendation 1 here in this report, It's got recommendation 1 that the council endorse. Then there's recommendation 2, 3, 4, 5. You made the point that you take, so you're going to vote on each one separately.
Yes, yes,
Thank you. That's
right.
all I just need.
Okay,
to
discussion. Okay, if there's no discussion, we can perhaps...
Chair, I'm not sure if we need to vote on all 9 of them individually. I'd much rather just do it as a job lot.
Harvey, and it's... thank you for raising it, but we may have a vote for part 2 of the motion, like of those chair positions.
Then maybe just take that one separately.
Look, I'd like to take it separately. So,
all right.
If we can go ahead.
Sorry,
Councillor Sherlock.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Elliott really would like to vote on these particular important issues. Oh, here she's back. So that's apologies.
So, was there any discussion about part 1?
I did have a question.
Yes.
The planning committee is a slightly different beast to all the others. CEO indicated earlier that all 12 of us would be on that committee. What's the quorum for that committee?
Good point, because there was a memo or a couple of memos that we need to incorporate into this. So, CEO, can you just explain those, please?
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor, and thank you for raising the matter. So the quorum for Planning Committee is actually 7 because it needs to be the majority of the 12. So that needs to be included. And also the reference to delegated officers as well in terms of those matters coming to Council goes from 5 back to 3. That's also a proposed change. It was a typo in the report.
And then there was another typo in part 2 of attachment C, page 54. So that's it reads currently to approve applications, where it should say that it's to determine applications in relation to officers' delegation. So they're typos.
Right. In regards to the planning committee, I'm glad it's been clarified, because when I read the reports, it said that the committee would be 5 and the quorum would be 5. Now it's going to be 12, which is fine enough. But I would like a number of elected members who have been here for a while to ask themselves this question. Have you, in the time that you've been on council, ever made a decision at a planning meeting then changed your mind a week later? If the answer is yes, that means there must be very good reason why the council has had a planning committee and then a week later a council meeting, and that's why we had 2 council meetings. I don't want to talk about council meetings at the moment because we're talking about this particular point here. We are not experts in planning. We might act as a planning authority, but not one person around here, or it could be someone, I'm not quite sure of the new people, that might have planning expertise. The committee structure in planning works very, very well when you can go to a planning meeting, sit around a table, discuss, have your deputations, and then the committee makes a recommendation to council. Could be different to the officer report. It could be in line with the officer report. But what it does is it gives people that are not experts in this field a time to sort of either reconsider or look at something else.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Point of order, just point of order on, sorry, I should stand. On a councillor speaking raises an issue that's irrelevant to the motion. Presently, I believe we're discussing the first component only, which does not include planning matters.
Well,
we're talking about portfolios.
It does talk about the planning committee, so thank you, but I won't take that as a point of order.
Part 2.
Part 2?
Part 2.
Okay.
Okay, good. I'll keep on going?
Yes,
That's good.
Alderman Zuko, you have the floor.
Oh, not a problem. It's all right. I've been around here a while. I know what I'm talking about. So, someone gets your point of order when you're speaking. So it gives it an opportunity for those elected members to sort of reconsider their decisions, get more information and everything, especially when we are not experts in our field. And I've said this, I think, time and time again in regards to planning, and as I've always pointed out that I don't believe planning should be dealt with by elected members. I'd like to see an independent planning authority, but that's a different kettle of fish. We're talking here now of setting up a planning committee that's going to meet twice a month and make determinations, and that's it, final, done and dusted, and we can't go back on it. And as we well know, I have argued in this chamber many, many times about when we make planning decisions and it comes back behind closed doors from the tribunal for us to give consideration to either changing or overturning our position. I believe it is an absolute step backwards for this council to go and have a delegated authority given to a planning committee of 12 elected members, because I believe it would be a detriment. This is not about change. I'm a type of... I've been here 30 years. I've accepted more change than what people might think. Change is not about completely flipping something. In business, we change things sometimes by minute things. Sometimes we might make bigger changes. But over a period of time, you might change things over a period of time. I cannot support this here on the basis that I believe that the planning committee should be a committee which recommends to council its consideration. That is a way I believe gives us all an opportunity to have fair and frank debate on the floor of council and gives each elected member who has no expertise in planning another week to reflect on whether or not they made a good or bad or indifferent decision in a planning committee that has full delegated authority. Cannot support it, but I will support if someone wants to move that the council go down the track of having an independent planning committee. I'll support that.
Further discussion. So we're looking at part one. If there is no further discussion, we have this before us. So I'll put that motion to endorse this. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against?
No.
Show of hands. Those in favour?
Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Alderman Barakis, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Purcell, Councillor Layberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly,
Councillor Dutta, have you?
Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Those against? Those against?
Alderman Zuko. It's carried, Lord Mayor, 11 votes to 1.
Okay. Thank you. So we go now to part two, which is elected nominations be sought. So we have these portfolio chair positions, and I'll move through each of these. Is there any nominations for City Economy? Alderman Bloomfield?
I was going to nominate Alderman Bloomfield.
Do we need a seconder for that? Or is it? Okay, all right. All right, so it is one motion anyway. Okay, Alderman Bloomfield, any other nominations?
Let's have a question, if I may. If it's going to go to a ballot, is it going to be an open ballot or are we going to have a closed ballot? I'd like to know that first, please.
Well, I would think that we'd have an open ballot.
Open ballot? That's great. I'll nominate for City Economy.
Okay, so we have two nominations, Alderman Zuko and Alderman Bloomfield. Anyone else? No? Okay, so those in favour of... Oh, Councillor Dutta?
Just a question.
Yes.
Because we have two candidates, is it possible to just ask why, so that we can get a bit of background? Is it possible or no?
Certainly, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Alderman Bloomfield, would you like to speak to your nomination? And I'll allow 3 minutes for this.
I'm an accountant. I've been in business for 26 years, looking after small business. I am the founding person for the Confederation of Greater Hobart Business, which is a chamber of commerce set up post-COVID after nurturing small business through that period. I am, as far as I know, the only person in this room who attended the Hobart Retailers Group for Safety that associated with the Wellington Court and Elizabeth Street Mall areas, and I was quite involved in proposing solutions to those issues. I'm possibly also the only person here who has tertiary education qualifications in marketing as well, which I have used through my business for multiple years. So I think I'm highly qualified. I'm very, very connected to the small business community. I might not have been elected here for very long, but my goodness, there's not that many that I don't know. And this is small business. This isn't the big end of town stuff. This is small business, and that is who I am here to represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Zuko.
It's all new to me, but it's fine. I'm the former chair of the events, Tas Events, which brings all the events to Tasmania, all the big major events. Former marketing manager of the Tasmanian Pacing Club, which brought an international event here in the Inter-Dominion series, one of the most successful series that ever come to Tasmania. I actually have a marketing background which a lot of people don't realise. I have been a very successful business person in Hobart for over 50, since 1975, so near 50 years. Also, in my early days of arriving in Tasmania, I was part of totally transforming North Hobart to being the most derelict suburb to one of the most well sought after suburbs in Hobart, and then other people came along, like my esteemed colleague, Mr. John Kelly. I can go further. I was the chairman of the Taste of Tasmania for 12 years, totally transforming that. My list goes on. At one stage I had 75 businesses, 13 businesses with 75 staff. I don't have an accounting background, but I have a business resume that is longer than Ben-Hur. I have been associated with the Tasmanian Hospitality Association for many, many years, and many other associations. I actually am well respected by a huge amount of business people in Hobart. I won't mention names. That's a little bit about my background. I can keep on going.
Thank you. So we have to cast a vote. So those in favour of Alderman Bloomfield for chairing City Economy, say aye.
Aye.
Those, what do we do here?
I think
Show of hands.
Show of hands, please.
There's 8 there. Chairs.
Those who support Alderman Zuko?
4 there. Deputy.
Okay, so Alderman Bloomfield will be chairing that portfolio. Creative City. Nominations? Councillor Kelly, thank you. Any further nominations? Right. So you're duly declared chair of that portfolio. Future Hobart. I'd like to nominate for Future Hobart. Any other nominations? Clear myself. Sustainability and infrastructure nominations. Councillor Harvey, thank you. Any other nominations? No other nominations. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. You're now that portfolio holder. Housing and homelessness. I have a nomination. Councillor Dutta, further nominations? No further nominations. Councillor Dutta, thank you. You chair that portfolio. City Heritage. Do I call for any nominations for City Heritage? No nominations?
Sorry, Chair, I'm happy to nominate if there's no other nominations.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Lord Mayor? No further nominations? Thank you, Lord Mayor, you're chairing that committee. City Mobility. Nominations, Councillor Posselt. Any further nominations? Alderman Zuko, thank you. Do you want to speak to your nomination?
Certainly. As you all know, I campaigned heavily on mobility. I conducted multiple mobility surveys across the city, including a novel tool which is similar to the local area mobility plans that the council has implemented. One of those had more than 130 responses of individual items within the mobility portfolio that was tagged by community members for improvements, areas of improvement. I also had 2 petitions that were specific to mobility, pedestrian safety in Mount Nelson, and pedestrian safety and neighbourhood amenity in West Hobart and Mount Stewart and Lena Valley. I am, as every councillor has seen here, I am somebody who uses multimodal transport. Today I've taken my scooter. I came to the swearing-in ceremony on my push bike. I did the orientation on all means of different bikes and ferry transport over to Mornington. I have a long history of being involved with different multimodal transport and I have a great passion for making the movement of people around this city easy and bringing us into the modern era, looking at various different technologies and ways that we can shape the city to encourage people to take other forms of transport rather than a single occupant vehicle, which we know is not great for our city. So I believe that I'm the best person to chair this committee. I already have the networks and I am an active user within those networks of the infrastructure, and that's why I believe I should be chair of that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Zuko.
I'm not going to go on too long, Chair, but I'm the one that actually had the bike cages implemented in the car park in North Hobart, car park in Argyle Street. I have pushed for car parking for electric motorbikes. As people will know, that was a notice of motion I put forward. I've actually been pushing for innovative ways on dealing with parking, on-street parking and parking in general. I was actually the person that initiated the skate park for young people to skate to a skate park and skate home as well. I won't keep on going on, but they're just a couple of things I've done.
Thank you, Alderman Zuko. So I'll ask that you now cast a vote. So those in favour of Councillor Posselt, raise your hands.
Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Posselt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Those for Alderman Zuko?
Alderman Zuko, Alderman Varakis, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Kelly and Councillor Dutta. Councillor Posselt, Deputy 7 votes to 5.
And thank you for your interest in that as well, Alderman Zuko. Now, City Water.
I'd like to nominate for that one.
Thank you, Councillor Lohberger. Are there any other nominations? If not, thank you, duly elected. Welcoming an inclusive city. Any nominations? Councillor Sherlock? Any further nominations? No, thank you. Duly elected or appointed. Healthy Hobart. Councillor Elliott. Thank you. Any other nominations? No. Thank you very much, Councillor Elliott. And to the Planning Committee. Alderman Varakis. Any further nominations?
Yeah. No.
All right, duly elected. Thank you, Alderman Varakis.
Chair, I'd just like to speak to the motion, if I may.
Part of the motion?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Through you to the appropriate person that can answer this. Was the elected members' nominations discussed in the induction program last week?
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, as outlined in the report, a number of matters pertaining to the governance model were discussed during the induction period for the newly elected council. And in fact, we did discuss a range of nominations of interested elected members as part of that process.
Thank you very much. Now, a little while ago, it was stated that workshops, no one makes any decisions, which I can understand, because they have to be ratified by council. I've been here 30 years. 30 years, I've never known the council to use SurveyMonkey to get elected members to give an indicative indication on how they will vote in regards to nominations for portfolio chair. Surprisingly, the two nominations that went to SurveyMonkey were city economy and city mobility. The two nominations that the two portfolios I nominated for. So if I am going to be led to believe that workshops are going to be used for discussion and or Chatham House rules discussion, how on earth is the public going to feel when elected members are going on SurveyMonkey to give an indicative indication on how they're going to vote when they get into this chamber on matters? So that's what you want to do in workshops and closed environments? It's in writing. I just wanted to prove a point to everybody that it's inappropriate to give an indication or an indicative on how you're going to vote when you come into this chamber. I've proved to each and every one of you that maybe you should reconsider the way you operate in committees. I've proved the point. You've already voted for this. I've got it in writing. So you've already voted and it's potential, it's not a breach. I'll tell you now, it's a potential breach of the Local Government Act. I didn't say it was, potential.
Alderman Bloomfield.
Point of order. My understanding was that you didn't actually, in fact, go for both those positions.
Sorry?
You weren't both of those SurveyMonkey positions.
It's not really a point of order, so...
Point of order. I nominated for both of them tonight. Yes, okay, Madam Chair, you're the chair. Thank you.
Ruling about points of order
Thank
are
you.
irrelevant.
Two standing.
No, you go.
I just wanted to make the point that the way the voting actually occurred was quite different. So it doesn't appear to have been pre-organised because the vote was quite a different number to the indicative vote that we did do.
Thank you.
May I clarify? May I clarify something?
Councillor Sherlock.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just with regards to what Alderman Zuko has just noted, a potential breach, could you clarify that for us, please, through you, Chair, to the CEO?
CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Acting Lord Mayor. Look, clearly the advice that was provided in writing to all elected members pertaining to the SurveyMonkey made it abundantly clear in writing that it was not a decision-making process, but rather one to give an indicative sense of interest in those who had nominated, with the very clear advice in writing on two occasions that it would be considered formally by council and that due process would ensue, and therefore I can categorically advise council it is not a breach of the Local Government Act. Thank you.
Potential. I'd just like to clarify a point of clarification. The actual vote for city economy was the same. I didn't vote in the first one. I only voted in the second one, and I didn't nominate for the other one in the first instance.
Accepted.
Point of clarification. Thank you.
I don't know that we have points of clarification, but anyway. Any further discussion in relation to part 2? If not, I'll put the motion. Or we've moved that, haven't we? Do we need to do that? No, we've done that.
No, you've got to move it.
You've got to move it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Pardon? Right. Okay. So we have a result of the votes.
Happy to move it.
Okay. So I'll put that. Those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Those against? No? Show of hands. Those in favour for part 2?
Alderman Baracus, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Purcell, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
And those against?
Alderman
Zuko?
Alderman Zuko. It's carried, Deputy, 10 votes to 1.
Thank you. All right, we move to, I think we can probably do part 3 and 4 together, or even the rest of this. So that we endorse the Planning Committee terms of reference as at attachment B with those other things noted.
Close vote against it.
Alderman Baracus.
Just a couple of questions, if I may. Just in regards to the broader workshop process, I think we've gone through all the amendments before, but with workshops coming up, it was indicated, sorry, through you, Chair, it was indicated that the majority of those items would be officer-driven as far as the issues that pop up in those workshops. How would elected members get issues, like if there's issues that are being fed to them through the community, how do they get them up for discussion in those workshops?
CEO.
Thank you, through you, Acting Lord Mayor. So the intention would be that there would be a standing item on each workshop agenda where elected members could raise issues either for discussion on the night of a workshop or indeed foreshadowing that they are interested in a workshop on X, Y or Z. Thank you.
And just in regards to the it was discussed as well slightly earlier, the less regular full council meetings going from fortnightly to monthly. Given the lower regularity, if we're having issues pop up that are of a time-sensitive nature, are we going to be having more special council meetings as a result of that? Would that be an outcome?
Thank you. And again, through you, Acting Lord Mayor. So certainly that would be the case. If indeed there was a need for a special meeting of council, we would convene one. Based on the analysis, though, that we've done of previous agendas and the way in which we'll be programming work, we don't envisage that there would be a need for additional special meetings other than the sort of number you'd expect each year. I don't expect that to radically change, but that's not to say that if there was a need to have a special meeting that we wouldn't be able to do so with the appropriate notice required under the Act.
Thank you, Chair, and that was just in regards to more so issues that sort of arise as unexpectedly. But look, I did have one, and I know it's been discussed. I've discussed it offline with quite a few people, and I'm not moving any amendments at the moment. I'm just thinking out loud. But around the planning meetings, I appreciate the benefit in streamlining the process as far as having the planning committee be fully delegated. I do have some, and as Alderman Zuko indicated, I think there has been times, and other members of the planning committee might agree, that we've had items come up in the committee, and either from the planning committee to full council, either more information's come through, or the applicant has agreed to make some minor amendments, or there's been discussion in the space of that week, and something might go in with a refusal in committee and then be overturned to either a deferral or an approval based on new information or changes. And I think there's been quite a large number of times where the process has benefited from that two-stage process. So look, I'm not proposing any changes tonight. I was thinking that this be something that I think the broader community, whether it's developers, whether it's people that members of just everyday members of the community, people that make deputations regarding items, might have some pretty strong views on, and might be for or against this process. So look, I'm less concerned about it given part 9. I think it is important that this is just one of the issues that I'm thinking out loud on. There will be other issues, I'm sure, that develop as part of these large changes, because they are large changes. So there will be unexpected little things that aren't operating as perhaps as efficiently or problematic as we weren't expecting them to be. I think it is important that as per part 9, when we do come to address this, we don't take it as a given that we just formalise this, this year trial or review. because I know it's one of my favourite sayings, and the planning director always appreciates it, that there's nothing quite as permanent as a temporary government initiative. And I just wouldn't want that to be the case with this, because I think if there are learnings, if there are inefficiencies with the process, I think it is really important that we use that opportunity to amend them. That's just broadly speaking. So look, I think I might also just add, in regards to the planning, and I don't know if it's worth an amendment, but perhaps some form of formal communication go out to, whether it's through advertising, but some sort of communications campaign goes out regarding the changes to planning, because it will affect quite a lot of people. There'll be a lot of people that put something to the planning committee, and then when the planning chair says, okay, cool, that's done, there'll be developers going, hang on, wasn't this supposed to go to council? Like, did I just miss my opportunity to change things or fix things? Or I think that's a really critical issue. People need to go into this process understanding what the process is. So I might actually move that as an amendment.
Can I suggest that we hear from the CEO before you move an amendment?
Sure,
because it's a good point, Alderman Barakis. CEO.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor, and again through to you, Alderman Barakis. Just a couple of points there, just for clarification, if I may respond. So firstly, I need to be really clear with Council that nothing compels you to make a decision on the night of the Planning Authority. So indeed, if you, as a committee, delegated committee, felt as though you needed more information on a planning item, you would have the ability to request that additional information, and indeed, by resolution, of course, defer an item and have it brought back to a subsequent meeting. Secondly, just in regards to communication, certainly a good idea and something that was discussed by a number of elected members as well, including Acting Lord Mayor, in terms of giving due notification and ensuring that people are really aware of this new process, particularly as it relates to Planning Committee. Certainly the recommendation here is very much about streamlining the process, but the officers have already given sort of quite some thought to how we do in fact engage with our development community as well as other members of community who are interested in particular development. So we'll put together a communications plan that deals with that very issue. Thank you.
Just if I might, Chair, and thank you for that, CEO. I appreciate that, and I'm sure that was something that was being considered already. I think just especially in regards to, I'm sure this will all get reported on as a major issue for Hobartians in the papers. I would be more comfortable if this was programmed into the recommendations that Council votes on tonight. If it might not ultimately functionally or mechanically change things, but I'd be a bit more reassured that this chamber has agreed that this is a necessary part of this process, as far as doing those doing that communications and advertising. So I might test the floor, and I might test the floor and amend. I think it would be part 3. That the Council endorse the Planning Committee terms of reference as at attachment B, and conduct a communications campaign to ensure that the public and relevant stakeholders are informed of the new process.
Second one.
Thank you. Councillor Sherlock, I think you seconded the motion, so I would need a seconder from somebody else. Councillor Elliott, thank you. All right.
I just have a question, sorry. Are we taking 3 to 9 altogether, or are we doing them separately?
Well, I think 3 to 4 with the amendment as...
So we're doing 3 to 4?
3 to 4 at the moment.
Yeah, look, I've already expressed my concerns with the terms of reference of the Planning Committee. Just reiterating that in section 2.31 that the quorum will be 7. It's a typo. Yeah, that's correct. And I don't support the terms of reference, nor do I support the establishment or delegation to this committee.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on points 3 and 4 and the amendment. I think it's a good amendment. I mean, I think that would have been picked up by the council officers, but I think we have this on the record, so I too share that concern that the public, particularly around planning issues, are notified and understand it. But my understanding, I should stand, but my understanding also is that we will have longer time from when the agenda is put out for us to consider it, because the meetings will be on the Wednesday as well. Is that right, Mr. Noy? As proposed currently?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And we don't have. I mean, if there isn't an extension of time granted by developers, it doesn't improve the situation of having time. But I do hope that the planning officers can really think about how there's as part of the process of planning reporting to this committee of the whole, that we have plenty of time to consider the motions before us before they expire. All right, so we have Alderman Barakas's amendment, seconded by Councillor Elliott, I think. I'll put that. Those in favour, say aye. Those against? It's carried unanimously. That becomes I'll move 3 and 4 with those other amendments, which I hope everybody's familiar with. I'll put that. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against, say no.
No.
Show of hands. Those in favour.
Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Passelt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, the Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
And those against?
Alderman Zuko. It's carried, Deputy 11 votes to 1.
Thank you. So we go to part 5, and we'll have an adjournment after we've done this item. So the council endorsed, like we finish item 13, the council endorsed the governance calendar as at attachment D. Thank you. Councillor Lohberger?
I've just got a question first before I speak on this. So is this us setting the timetable for the next 12 months, including all meetings? Is that, am I right in understanding that?
CEO?
That's correct, Acting Lord Mayor, but there is opportunity to change this or amend it as required throughout the course of the 12 months.
I might just talk about potentially moving an amendment to ask that the second meeting in December of this year is reinstated. The removal of that meeting was a surprise to me. I had, well, myself and other councillors have been talking about issues that we would actually want to bring at that meeting.
So that's for the reinstatement of the council meeting. What was the date of that?
God, all my timetable with me.
The 5th of December?
The 5th, yes. It's the meeting in 2 weeks.
Alderman Barakis, you've seconded that motion. Does anybody want to discuss
I mean, I'll talk
amendment?
to that as well.
Yep.
Obviously, there was an elector poll in the recent election period, and I feel that the sooner we deal with that, the better. And putting it off potentially till next year is not a great outcome for the community, I don't believe. So I would like to get that dealt with as soon as possible. And I feel like that meeting is a good opportunity to deal with that issue. So that's probably my feeling on the amendment, and that's why I'd like to bring it. In discussions with other councillors, we have been assuming that meeting will actually be in existence, and now it's not. So I'd just like it reinstated.
Thank you. Further discussion to the amendment? Alderman Barakis?
Happy to support that one, Chair. I think that was one that I was a bit worried about losing. I think not just was there issues that certain elected members might want to bring up. There's issues that I'd like to bring up as well. But I think to lose, having a council meeting the entire month of December when things are wrapping up, there's definitely issues that will be coming to council. I think it's important that we have. We can't go a full month without us meeting to discuss the issues of the city. I think it's critically important.
Further discussion.
Can I just clarify? Is this to discuss a notice of motion that you want to bring? And second part is, when do we have a workshop on the elected poll / university? Is there something coming in the pipeline?
Question. If I can answer question 2, I can answer question 1.
So through you, Acting Lord Mayor, sorry, I just had to quickly check the dates. So what's changed is the 5th of December was, I think, in the original program that was endorsed by Council last year. We've held that over to the 15th of December. And we have a workshop at this stage scheduled, which is in your calendar here, for the 13th to discuss a number of matters.
Including elected poll?
Including elected poll.
13th of December.
Okay, well that's enough for me. I think we would prefer it to be on the 5th. I'm so sorry. We would prefer it to be on the 5th, but if we can undertake to at least attempt to deal with that issue this year, then I'm happy with that. I just think the potential for it to be held off until next year was quite a problem for a lot of people.
All right, so you want to withdraw that amendment?
I'll withdraw that on the basis of the CEO's advice.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, just to make sure I've understood that correctly, so that the 13th of December would be the workshop through you, Chair, and that would include the UTAS item.
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, just absolutely to confirm, so we've got 2 items for that workshop that officers are preparing an agenda for at the moment. The first item is actually the UTAS matter and the outcome of the elector poll, with the intention of actually bringing that in an officer report and the outcomes officially of the elector poll on the 15th of December to the council meeting. And the other item from memory is our draft community engagement framework that will be coming up for discussion at the workshop ahead of being reported to council at the same meeting.
Okay, thank you. And it would be probably then reasonable to assume that any discussions or legwork that happens at that workshop would then come to the council on the 15th of December meeting.
CEO?
That's correct. For completeness, though, I just have to be absolutely clear that whilst the workshop's occurring on the 13th, there might be issues there that are raised by elected members, that are raised by officers, that we may not be able to fully complete in terms of our officer advice to the 15th, but there will certainly be a report to the 15th council meeting dealing with UTAS and the elector poll, but there could well be a report, and many reports in fact, into the new year about the issue more broadly. So we're not going to be able to close it out in one meeting, I guess is what I'm proposing.
Yes. No, I also agreed with Ben's concern around making sure that there's timely momentum, and we were planning for that meeting to exist, but with that understanding that the 13th will happen and that UTAS item is on the agenda for that workshop, and that there is a likelihood that there'll be UTAS items on the council meetings for the 15th. I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Alderman Zuko.
I was a little bit concerned. I just need to it was about a council meeting on the 5th, so it wasn't the original one we approved. Must have been something else, was it? Because the original one we approved was city planning on the 5th and a council meeting on the 28th. There's a council meeting next week.
Yeah, so through you, look, I'd need to check to get clarification on that. My understanding was that it was actually a meeting that we had booked in as a council meeting, and so we felt that we could hold that over until the 15th of December. But I'm happy to take that on notice and provide clarification.
Well, I'll ask another question. Do we have a council meeting on the 28th of November as per these documentations?
No, well, so our meeting for November, through you, Acting Lord Mayor, is this meeting. So there'll only be one other meeting proposed for council, and that's the 15th now of December.
I'll ask another question. When did we change the council meeting from the 28th? I'm just curious. I need to know.
Look, if there are officers, sorry, Acting Lord Mayor, if there are officers in the room who can clarify that, please do so. I'm not aware of it, other than we obviously are proposing for the council meeting on the 15th of December.
Do you want to
look, the meeting there is the AGM, which is on the 28th of November, that's scheduled.
Well, I had this sheet. I asked for these meeting dates that were taken off the hub. So this is the whole thing too. The hub has had everything removed off it, right? And all this stuff was on the hub. This was also online, and was deleted online. And this is an original copy of the original meetings we actually approved last year. On the 28th, there was a council meeting, and we've always conducted a council meeting, then the AGM immediately after. Through you to Mr. Noy. Is that correct, Mr. Noy?
So I'll actually respond to that. Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. I think we need to be very clear what we're talking about here. We've got an obligation as a council to conduct one meeting a month. That's what the Act requires us to do. And yes, I understand from our Manager of Corporate Affairs that we do in fact need to advertise a schedule of those meetings. In regards to the changes that have been made, as I've said, they have been made as a part of us doing a rescheduling for the remainder of this year and into next year. And in relation to the hub, all we're doing is archiving material from the last term of the council, resetting for the new term of the council. All of the information will be available as it's resolved by council when meeting schedules are updated.
Chair, I'll just make a point that irrespective of what's on the Local Government Act that we must have one council meeting a month, it doesn't mean to say we can't have 10, I'm sorry to say.
Thank you.
Due respect. Now, we're talking now about the council calendar that's in attachment D. I reflected a little bit on that on the workshop. Under the proposal, it's proposed to have 10 portfolio committees per 10 portfolio committees, 1 planning authority, in terms of reference. When you read the report, the terms of reference are going to come back in February next year. I've been around this council long enough to know that the one thing we don't do is approve anything until such time we've got all the information. We've never approved a committee until such time we've got a terms of reference. But if the council tonight wants to approve everything, go ahead. Your terms of reference are coming down the track. It's like me deciding to buy a house and I put the deposit down with the contract's going to come to me in 3 months' time. You just don't operate like that. But if this council wants to do that, that's fine. Then as for the proposed governance model is monthly council meetings. I've been told that under the Act that you can only, you've got to have a minimum of monthly council meetings, but we can have one every week if we want to, and every day if we want to. That's the minimum. Fully delegated planning committee, which you've already approved. Fortnightly workshops, which are going to be Chatham House rules, as stated earlier, and quarterly portfolio meetings, and monthly portfolio director meetings. Now, it was mentioned earlier that talking about transparency and openness and whatever have you. So we're going to end up having 12 council meetings, down by 12 roughly. 24 planning, that is 36 meetings open to the public. And then we're going to have 24 portfolio meetings. That adds up to 60. I don't have to be an accountant to add up to 60. So, in actual fact, we are giving members of the public, as I said earlier, 37 less opportunities than we currently have to give an opportunity for members of the public to participate in our council committees and everything like that. Because previously we had 22 council meetings, 11 community development, 11 finance, 10 city, 22 planning.
Alderman Slicko, I think you've made this point before.
No, I'm speaking to this motion on that. Okay, that's what I'm speaking to. I made that before about workshops. This is about the structure that we've got based on the governance. That's what I'm talking about. 11 parks, which adds up to 97. So, in actual fact, I cannot support this governance calendar on the basis that members of the public are going to have far less opportunity to be in participation with this council. That's irrespective of the portfolios. They're going to meet once a quarter, even if you have them more. They're only 24. So I can't support this, will not support this model at all whatsoever, because you're providing less opportunities for members of the public.
CEO, did you want to just clarify
Thank
something,
you.
please?
Again, Acting Lord Mayor, just for completeness. So the decision that Council made that actually resulted in the change to the meeting schedule, I've just been sent, and it actually relates to a resolution of the full Council on the 25th of October 2022, and it was entitled Council Meeting Arrangements Immediately Post-Election. So what we've got in front of you and the cancellation or postponement of meetings was actually a resolution of the Council back in October, and I'm happy to email that to new elected members for their records. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion in relation to this governance calendar? Councillor Posselt.
Thanks, Chair. Just in relation, I move an amendment in relation to the week of the 12th of December 2022. Typically, council meetings are held on Mondays, and with minimal notice, we've changed to a Thursday, recognising Councillor Lohberger's and Councillor Elliott's haste to have the UTAS matter to discuss. My amendment is that we move that council meeting to the Monday of that week, the 12th of December, and hold the workshop at a time amenable to members the week before.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Elliott, thank you. Discussion about this amendment?
Look, I'd just like to say I'd support that, just because it seems to me to be giving us a little bit more time to consider the workshop before the council meeting. So on that basis, I would support that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Alderman Barakis.
Just a question, Chair. I do support this. I suppose just first of all, is there a reason why it's on the Thursday, not on the Monday? Like why that day particularly is different?
CEO?
Look, I'm just advised, Acting Lord Mayor, that it was an overhang from the previous model insofar as it was booked into the schedule. So we can make that change without a problem from an administrative perspective.
So we'll just vote on this amendment if there's no further discussion. It's fairly straightforward.
Just to be clear, we're just moving that meeting from the 15th through to the 19th.
No, sorry, 15th through to the 12th, and the
backwards.
And the
12th.
workshop to be held within the week of the 5th of December. At a time, perhaps we can discuss that is convenient to everyone that week, given the proximity of the time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put that amendment. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried unanimously. All right. And now,
Sorry, I just had a question. When we're discussing point number 5, just on the calendar itself, it says P1, P2. So I'm assuming that the portfolios are going to be put together. So portfolio 1 and 2, and they'll appear at that time. Do we know what is 1 and 2? Do we know what's 5 and 6?
Yeah.
No, we don't at this stage. It was just for the purposes of scheduling. It just highlights that there'll be some running concurrently, and we'll try and ensure that they're not all running concurrently each time, so that there's that opportunity for crossover if elected members are wanting to attend different portfolios.
Thank you for clarifying that. I saw it on that sheet of how it was, but I wasn't sure if that's how they were going to be allocated. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll put part 5. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against? So we'll need a show of hands. Those in favour?
Alderman Barakis, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Posselt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Those against?
Alderman Zuko, Councillor Elliott.
Councillor Harvey, what was your vote?
I'm sorry, I'm used to sitting over there where I get called out first, so I normally put my hand up and then put it down straight away. So,
can we, for those in favour, raise your hand?
I had it up and I took it down.
Barakis, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Posselt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Too early.
And Councillor Elliott. That's carried. Deputy, 10 votes to 2.
Okay, we're on the home straight now. So the next is that we start meetings and workshops at 5 p.m. Is there any dissent to that? Okay.
Just did have a question. For example, if we're having the workshops at 5 p.m. And that those portfolio committees then also include, or potentially the workshops, members from the community, or it won't happen that way at all. And is there a possibility for that time to change, or?
CEO?
Yes, Acting Lord Mayor, absolutely. The times of the Portfolio Committee meetings would be recommended as part of the consideration of the terms of reference for each of those. The purpose of tonight is really just to ensure we're able to lock in workshops, Planning Committee and Council meetings going forward.
So I'll put that. Those in favour, say aye. Those against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 7, CEO be delegated the authority to update this governance framework accordingly. Any questions or comment about that? Councillor Elliott?
I just have a question for you, Chair. So once that's updated, will that document come back to the Council for approval or endorsement? Or?
Lord Mayor, it would come back for information, not endorsement.
Given the scale of what's being proposed and what that document would capture, would it be possible for it to come back for debate rather than just noting?
I've got no problem with providing that report through for Council in completeness early in the new year.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further comment, I'll put that. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against, say no.
No.
Those in favour, please raise your hand.
Yeah, I know, but what time he gets to be on?
This is Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Passelt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Those against?
Alderman Zuko. That's carried. Deputy, 11 votes to 1.
So the Council endorsed the updated meetings, procedures and guideline policy as at attachment F. Any comment? No comment? No, I'll put that. Those in favour? Aye. Say aye. Those against?
No.
Show of hands. Those in favour?
Alderman Barakis, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Passelt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, the Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Those against?
Alderman Zuko. It's carried. 11 votes to 1.
And part 9 is the new City of Hobart governance model be reviewed by the end of 2023. Councillor Elliott?
I'd personally like to have us set in a clearer time frame for that, because end of 2023 could really be anything, but personally something like June next in 2023 I'd like to have it reviewed, or I'd like to have a month rather than an end of.
So
what we're implementing. Yeah.
The calendar year 2023 is the proposal.
Yes, by the end of. So I'd like to move an amendment that we have that reviewed in July 2023, so that we have the next 7 months to see how it's going.
Okay. You're seconding that, Alderman Barakis? Okay. Discussion on this amendment.
Just a question through you to the CEO. Will that be enough time, 6 months, for us to review this?
CEO?
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, look, there's no reason we couldn't do a sense check at a 6-month point, but in terms of a full review, I think it would be best done on a 12-month basis, considering we won't actually have the portfolio committees up and running until April. So that will be the first month those committees would be meeting.
So do you want to amend that so that it suggests that we have a look at in July and then there's a formal review?
I'm happy with that. If we have an overview or whatever the words might be, some sort of sense check or whatever the professional high-level assessment of how things are going for any glaring issues in July, with a full and proper assessment in November, December 2023.
Right. So is everybody happy with that?
Chair, look, I'm uncomfortable with 6 monthly things. especially at the start when we're just getting started, and we might end up discussing things that we don't have the full set of details on. So I'm confident in a 12-month full review rather than a half review, because I just don't think we'll have enough information at that point in time. So I'd rather stick with a 12 monthly review in December.
Thank you. Alderman Barakis.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, and help inform my decision on this. In the space of now and the next 12 months, when we do make a formal review of this process, if there are issues that arise from this that are of a serious nature or are really limiting council's ability to function as well as it can, there would be nothing stopping us from changing it if there were such issues to occur. Is that correct?
CEO?
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, I think with all things we'd encourage rectification early. You know, if there were issues that elected members were concerned about, or indeed officers were concerned about, we could raise them and resolve them as we go, like we do with most things.
Yep.
Councillor Loberg.
I'd just like to speak in support of this one. I think just in the first year, it's probably a good idea to review it more regularly than just once, but I don't think that needs to continue. So just that first year, it's important that we really get a good temperature check on it. It doesn't need to be a full and wholesome sort of report. It just needs to be some sort of a check of how it's all going.
Thank you.
Could you put that amendment?
Are you moving that it be put, or are we going to hear
Well,
from
is that an
Councillor?
amendment? Because I'm not agreeing to change it unless it gets voted on to change it.
Just a question to the CEO through you, Chair. Is a workshop appropriate to have a discussion about this in July as a review mechanism?
CEO?
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, it'd be a good opportunity, I think, to use a workshop for that purpose, with then a follow-through report through to Council of the outcomes and, you know, key things discussed. Thank you.
I think that's probably taken as read, Councillor Posselt, rather than having to amend that.
Yep.
Okay, so we have an amendment as suggested by Councillor Elliott. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put that amendment. Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Show of hands, those in favour?
Alderman Zuko, Alderman Barakis, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Posselt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Those against?
Councillor Harvey and the Lord Mayor. That's carried. Deputy, 10 votes to 2.
Okay, thank you. I might make some comments before I adjourn this part of the meeting, but...
We haven't voted on that number 9.
No, there's a standing motion.
Oh, substantive motion. We have to vote on that now.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, part 9. We haven't got to part 9. So the amended part 9, those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried unanimously. Just to summarise, I think this has been a really useful discussion. It's ironed out some of the concerns. It's suggesting that we, as a capital city, are going to be making some considerable decisions over the course of the next term, and I think this augurs well because this discussion has been really fulsome. It's helped us come to a decision, and not a unanimous decision all the way through, but I think it will make it, this is a new way of going forward. It's working with the CEO and the new portfolios, so I look forward to how this might work for the next year and the next term. All right, so we don't need to put that now, do we? No, okay. So I'll move that we, we move an adjournment for, say, 20 minutes, so from 13.1 of 13.1B of the Local Government Act procedures. Councillor Sherlock, seconded by Councillor Dutta. So I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried, and we'll see you back here at 8 o'clock. We need half an hour.
We said 20 minutes, I think.
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
7:48.
7. So we'll re-adjourn the meeting, and we have had quite a lot of discussion the first 13 points. We go now to item 14, Local Government Association of Tasmania, motions for the December general meeting. Can I have somebody move for the purposes of discussion?
So moved.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey, seconded by Councillor Dutta. Discussion. So this is the motions for Local Government Association. Councillor Possil.
Thank you, Chair. I just note that in the recommendation from LGAT that the Council resolved to instruct its delegates to vote, in particular for my discussion, is around point 4, in favour of endorsing the recommendations contained in the Work Health and Safety Review. And I move an amendment to that that I've circulated to most elected members. Sorry, Simon. Sorry. I'll give you a copy. So, oh, there you go. Okay. That Council resolved to vote in favour of endorsing the recommendations contained in the Work Health and Safety Review. Elected representatives contained in attachment E, with the exception of 1.18AI, to introduce additional training and education focused and tailored for 3 main stages of an elected representative's journey pre-election, and 1.21A, the requirement for qualifications similar to company director's course as a mandatory precondition for seeking election. And very briefly, Chair, the reason for moving that amendment is that I believe that representing your community should be open to all cross-sections of the community, including those who don't have the resources to be able to undertake a course similar to the company director's course. These courses can cost $5,000 to $10,000, and having it as a precondition for seeking election, I believe, is counterproductive to having the most open and functional and representative democracy. So I'll move that amendment.
Can I have somebody second that amendment, please? Councillor Dutta. Thank you. Further discussion? Oh, sorry. So, Councillor Sherlock, thank you. Any discussion around that amendment, or is it quite clear? Alderman Bloomfield.
I was just going to support the motion. Looking at it, I've certainly looked at the company director's course. It's very good, it's very thorough. But surely we should be pushing back to the local government association to possibly do a more appropriate, more affordable course that is more available to people. Therefore, we'd meet a more appropriate criteria.
Thank you. Alderman Barakis.
I'd go even further than what Alderman Bloomfield said. I absolutely agree that having a company director's course would benefit somebody working in an elected position as a representative and decision maker. And I think, I'm sure all of us have spoken to or been first-time candidates and received advice from people that are more experienced, or given advice to new candidates. Having some understanding or education as to pre-election and how to conduct oneself during an election and the pitfalls to look out for are definitely, or would definitely be beneficial to those seeking office. But I 100% agree with Councillor Basalt that to make that a requirement is fundamentally undemocratic. I think, whilst, this is something I've explained to family members and say, why can't we require that, people are qualified for the job? Why can't they all have tertiary educations? Or, there's different kind of life experiences and different kind of knowledges and different kind of understanding that leads to that diversity of view, ability and contribution to the chamber, and that goes for any level of government, not just council. And fundamentally, we're not elected here as experts. That's what the offices are for. We're elected to play a representative function for the public, and that comes with representing people from different walks of life and different levels of experience. So I absolutely agree with this. As much as I think having a company director's course would definitely benefit people, as was said, it's expensive, and that shouldn't be a pre-qualification. I think that's entirely undemocratic.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Chair, just to qualify, you're looking at 4.4.
1.4, I think it is.
1.4 of the LGAT.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the training component on page 126. That's not what you're referring
Can
to.
I just clarify the points? 1.18AI in the...
What page number?
Oh, stand by.
It should be just on the bottom there. Anyway, I'll keep talking. So, because under training, 4.4,
26.
page 126, it says, introduce a requirement for qualification similar to a company director's course as a mandatory precondition. So that might be a cheap online course as well. It may not be the $5,000, Rolls-Royce company director's course, but there may be other qualifications. And I would think that everybody should have a go at doing something, even if it's free online qualification that you need to complete, because it will help you in your duties as a councillor. So I'm not against some sort of training. But
This is mandated, isn't it?
It's mandated.
Introduce a requirement for qualification.
Councillor Dutta.
Chair, I want to speak to the amendment. Firstly, I again say that I would support this amendment, even though I rang around today where I was able to do a course for $300. And if I was to go and do the same course with a registered organisation, then that would cost me between $5,000 to $7,000, and I would get a certificate. It would be either set 3 or 2 or 3. So my reason for supporting this, I think, is because there are those people who will not be able to afford that kind of money, and we don't want to in fact disqualify them and make them a prerequisite, as it were. So because it is a prerequisite, I will not support this, and therefore I support the amendment. Once we are elected, we can go through and do this course if we want to, but even then, at the end of the day, some of us have great qualifications, but what paper qualifications we have and what we put in practice are two different things. We can have all this ethical knowledge and know-how, but not practice what we have learned, then it becomes futile. And so therefore I think one's conscience and common sense sometimes dictates, and we can do better than that. So I would support this particular amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the amendment? Councillor Lohberger.
To the amendment as well, I'll be supporting it. I'll be very quick and brief here. We shouldn't be just doing anything to discourage people standing, and this will discourage people from standing, and therefore I think we should strike it out. Thank you.
Can you just refer back to the
Any further discussion?
page you're looking at?
It was 126.
126, what I read out, yeah.
Right, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the amendment. Those in favour, say aye. Those against? The amendment's carried. It becomes part of the substantive motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Now to item 15, which is Local Government Association of Tasmania elected member nominations for voting delegates. Can I have somebody move the we have the recommendation that we call for voting delegates, Councillor Sherlock and Councillor Passelt. So who would like to nominate as a delegate? Alderman Barakis. Any further nominations? Councillor Elliott.
How many do we need? Sorry.
How many do we? One voting delegate and one proxy. Right. Thank you. Any?
Sorry. Is it normally the mayor that is the delegate, or it's not required to be? I think it normally is at LGAT. Meetings that I've been to, but it doesn't have to be, I guess.
CEO?
So, sorry, Lord Mayor, I've just had advice from our Manager of Corporate Affairs that it's not a requirement for it to be the Mayor, but my understanding is that the Lord Mayor, you have as of rights on that sort of overarching strategic group for LGAT. Is that right? The GMC, Lord Mayor.
Yeah, yeah.
So just a question there. So will that give the Lord Mayor the voting rights?
So just to clarify, Acting Lord Mayor, so what I was referring to in terms of Lord Mayors as of right is the General Management Committee of LGAT. So it's separate to the LGAT representation that we're seeking this evening. So apologies for that confusion.
And these are general meetings, just for further clarification, these are general meetings, not the AGM? Or does it include the AGM?
Yeah.
Okay. Includes the AGM, okay.
I probably, I'll nominate as well, because I have gone to them previously, yeah.
So we have Councillor Elliott, Lord Mayor and Alderman Barakis.
I'm happy to withdraw my nomination if we've gotten the numbers.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so you're happy to go ahead with that, Alderman Barakis? Okay. Any discussion?
Only a question with regard to voting. The delegates are guided by the report and also the council's predetermined views on these issues. You can't just, it's not a free-for-all. You can't vote how you feel. You've got to follow the council position. I don't want to do it
Have from the previous motion, we would have that represented as per that vote. Is that not right, CEO?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, so we're happy to have Lord Mayor and Alderman Barakis as our delegates. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Item 16, Taswater appointment of owners representative. Councillor Lohberger, I imagine that you'd like to...
I'll certainly be nominating for this, yes.
Nominate? Yep. So, nominating and...
Sorry, I was just seconding the
nomination. I would be happy to be the proxy as well, so...
Happy to support that.
Yep. Thank you. All right. So we've got mover and seconder. Any other nominations? If not, I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Item 17 is the Southern Tasmanian Regional Waste Authority Forum representative, and this is...
I'll nominate for that, Chair.
Councillor Harvey, thank you. Any seconded by Councillor Sherlock? And we only need one nominee here, don't we?
Yep.
Yep, thanks. Mr Doyle?
Is there a proxy for that?
No, there's only one nominee. So if there's no further nominations, I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Thank you, Councillor Harvey, stepping up. Right, item 18 is the Wellington Park Management Trust, appointment of elected member representatives. Have somebody move the motion. Councillor Sherlock. Can I have somebody second it? Councillor Lohberger. Thank you. Discussion.
Chair, I'd like to move an amendment to both points under that have been recommended. I'd like to move the amendment that elected member nominations be sought for 2 members and 1 deputy member, in addition to the deputy position, which is currently occupied by yourself, the Deputy Lord Mayor, until the end of next year.
Oh, can I vacate that? Yeah. All right, I'll vacate that, yes.
Okay, so in light of that, I'll just change the amendment. So elected member nominations be sought for 2 members and 2 deputy members on the Wellington Park Management Trust for a period of up to 3 years, and that we scrap the second point, and that the Chief Executive seek advice and inform elected members on mechanisms which would allow a council officer to accompany nominated members to Wellington Park Management Trust meetings and act as a liaison for operational inquiries. I'm happy to pass around a copy of that if anyone wants to have a look at it. And just to provide some commentary on that, I understand historically we've had 2 elected members representing Hobart City Council. I think this has been sprung upon us a little bit, the change. I understand there's some rationale. Could I ask the CEO to elaborate on the rationale for the officer?
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. And I'd actually need to pass this over to Neil Noy, who was responsible for those changes. Thanks.
Mr Noy?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, it was modelled on the Glenorchy example, where Glenorchy, in fact, have an elected member and they have a staff member, because there is a real disconnect between the trust and the operational side of the organisation when you simply have just an elected member representative, and that's certainly been our experience over the years. My understanding is that the Glenorchy situation is a much more healthier and much more connected arrangement, where you have both an elected, a political nomination, and you have an operational nomination. So that was the rationale.
Can I further ask, Ms Norrie, with regards to voting and being an authorised member to vote on the Wellington Trust, how does that work with an officer and what are their instructions?
Well, a very good question. Look, I think if you're a member of the authority, you're acting on behalf of the authority, not necessarily the organisation you're necessarily representing, is my understanding. In terms of the reference and the governance is dictated by the Act.
Thank you. So just to sum up based on what I've heard there, I will still keep the amendment in place. I believe that it's better to have a model where we can have an informed representative, if that's possible, under the Act, that can inform two elected members that sit on the trust, rather than replacing one with a council officer. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Can I speak to the amendment?
Yes.
Look, I support keeping it as two elected members. I think historically there might have even been a third Hobart City Council, or maybe it was just that we were guaranteed the chairpersonship of the trust, and that has gone now, which is a shame, because you know, we do. It's a significant part of council's budget. There is a need for quite a lot of scrutiny and probably a bit of a shake-up of the trust, and I think that is sometimes harder for staff members to do. I think, yeah, we need to really move things along, and the trust has been a little bit moribund in some ways, and I think elected members will be able to try and really push for just better shared management of this mountain, because at the moment 95% of it is falling to council and our budget and our staff, and we do need to push for a much more equal and shared management of the mountain. So I think I would support Councillor Posselt's amendment to retain the two elected members and the two deputies or proxies, and then having stronger support from a staff member to attend with the two elected members. Thank you.
Further discussion? All right, so if there's no further discussion, look, I'll support the amendment, and I think it's incumbent on those who do take on the role of delegate to the trust or trustee, that they do have that discussion and that communication quite clearly with the officers, council officers, because if that has been a fault in the past, then we need to rectify it. And I too agree, I think it's a really good amendment. It is really important for that transparency and representation. It is a fairly political trust, if you like, or it can be. So it's very. I think it's really necessary that there are elected members making those decisions. Okay, so I'll put the amendment. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against? The amendment's carried unanimously. I now call on those who would like to nominate for positions, and we have 4 positions at this point. So, Lord Mayor, are you nominating for the Trust? You're on mute. Had to say it once.
Sorry, yes, I am happy and keen to nominate.
Thank you.
If there's others that are keen as well, I'll step back.
Okay, so Councillor Posselt, Councillor Lohberger and Councillor Kelly. So I think we have the requisite numbers. Is there anybody who would like to be a proxy rather than, or can you work it between yourselves as to how we do this, or do we need to specifically? Right, okay, so nominate for the trustees. So, all right. Well, we'll probably need, we'll need a vote. So those.
I'm happy not to. Oh,
yeah, you're right.
I'm happy to be a proxy.
Okay, thank you.
But I would like the proxies and the members to meet occasionally and ensure that we're getting the results we're.
Take that on notice.
Did we get a chance to put our?
Yes, if you want to make a statement, you can.
Who wants to go first?
Councillor Kelly, you start.
Yeah, I'm really keen to act in this position. I'm fully aware of the issues that have been with the Trust, as the Lord Mayor mentions it, dare I say the words, needs a shake-up. And look, I've had a lifelong association with Mount Wellington. I live in the foothills and Knocklofty. I've ran to the top. I've biked regularly still there. I walk every year up there. I know every track. I've actually worked as a contractor in a previous life with council on the mountain. And I believe it's not only those, my lifelong association, but my business skills I've had for the last 35 years being self-employed can bring a lot to that and to the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I too walk on the mountain a lot. I always have. I do love that mountain. Also, a significant portion of Hobart's water supply does come off the mountain, and I would like to be a little bit more involved with that as well, given my position on this council, my portfolio position. And finally, I actually have a degree in environmental studies and geography. I'm qualified in this area. But saying that, I think there's some other great people here, so I'd be happy, if it works out that I'm a proxy, so be it. But at this stage, I would like to go for one of the representative positions.
Thank you. Councillor Posselt.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Great. That's right. Look, I too am happy. I'll take that line. I'm happy to be a proxy as well, but I'll still put my hat in the ring. The reason that I want to be involved is because Kunani is so important to this city. It's one of the most important things that ties us all together. And the management and ongoing management of it affects us all, as we have seen with the cable car proposal and the division within our society that caused. I have many friends who climb on the pipes. One of my good friends climbed the pipes in a moon boot, having broken her ankle because she's hardcore. And these are the people that use the mountain, and there's so many considerations for recreation, for conservation, for our Indigenous community as well, as traffic management and mobility and transport on the mountain. I too walk on the mountain like these guys. I ride the mountain, I ride up the mountain on a road bike, I ride down the mountain on a road bike. So there's lots that we need to do and address, and I agree with the Lord Mayor that things probably need to change. So I'll leave it at that as well, but I'm sure that any one of us will be just fine in that position.
Okay.
So just a question, Lord Mayor, sorry, thank you. That amendment also passed, so does that mean that's 4 people? So that's great, so it's 1, 2, 3,
So there are 2.
4. Okay, great.
2 positions and 2
Cool.
proxies.
Okay, great.
So
Thank
we're
you.
just wanting 2 positions. So this is so difficult.
Winery.
You'll spend the next 3 years deciding what font is going to go on the sign. Basically, all the big things.
Done, so easy.
All right. So just as far as how this vote goes, we'll vote for one person as we go, and it will be a matter of who gets the most votes. So you can only vote, well, you can vote for each of the three who've been put forward. And so we'll start with Councillor Kelly. So those who support Councillor Kelly?
I support everyone.
You can only support one, right?
You can vote for one.
Two.
Two people.
I think you should do rock, paper, scissors. It's much more democratic.
Two people.
So Councillor Kelly, so...
So Alderman Barakis, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Dutta, and Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor.
Okay. Those who support Councillor Lohberger, raise your hands.
Councillor Sherlock, this is voting for Councillor Lohberger, wasn't it? Yes, sorry. Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Purcell, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey, Deputy Lord Mayor and Lord Mayor.
And I think we can probably take it as read, but Councillor Posselt.
And Barakis.
Voted for all three.
No. Councillor Purcell.
Vote early, vote often, mate.
And Lord Mayor, I've already got 2 votes for the Lord Mayor.
You've already had 2 votes, Lord Mayor. You can only take...
Recount.
We want to recount, or you're right with that, Councillor Posselt. All right, thank you for your enthusiasm. So we have as the trustees Councillor Lohberger and Councillor Kelly, and as the proxies Councillor Posselt and the Lord Mayor. I'll put that. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Items carried. Right, item 19 is the Risk and Audit Panel, appointment of elected members, and at this stage this is a call for 2 elected member nominations. CEO, is this likely to be increased in relation to Risk and Audit Panel, or what are the stipulations?
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, I would hope that we can, over time, undertake a comprehensive review of the terms of reference governing the Risk and Audit Panel. I will just point out, though, that they are an instrument that apply to the state, so there are certain elements that we're unable to change. However, I will take it on notice because, as we've discussed previously, I think there's merit in us really reviewing this, particularly at the beginning of a new term of council.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so I call for nominations. Who'd like to nominate? So we have 3 nominations for 2 positions.
Oh, you.
Oh. Yeah, sorry about that. But okay, so who would like to speak first to their nomination? Councillor Elliott.
Well, without seeing the terms of reference and the detail for the actual committee, but just in understanding that I have so far and from the induction program as well, I expressed early interest in this in this panel to Kelly, and I note that we don't have the Finance and Governance Committee anymore with the portfolio structure coming in. I had a question around where that sort of work and focus would go, and my understanding is that we'll predominantly move to the Risk and Audit Panel, and through you, Chair, is that correct, CEO?
That's correct. So the focus really of the panel is very much as set out in the instrument, but as I said earlier, we'd be really keen to expand the terms of reference.
Great. And my professional background's in policy, and predominantly in the HR space, but I have some sort of strange fascination with policy and getting that right and understand how important that is for an organisation, and around making sure that governance methods and strategies and things like that are all in place and followed. So yeah, I would be very happy to be represented on this panel.
Alderman Bloomfield.
I guess I have to return again that tax agent for a number of years. And I note with concern when I looked at the figures in the recent induction that it's going to be critical that we hold good ground going forwards, that we are very careful with how we hold things. Certainly I feel that I do this for a living, so maybe not a council, but I certainly am very aware of where we're going and what we need to do. So I would like to throw a hat in the ring to ensure that we have the best qualified people in that room, not just the staff who are eminently qualified as well, same as myself, but you'll have someone who can hopefully explain more and be part of the system a little bit better for you. Thank you.
And I will speak to my my nomination, I suppose. I've been on the Risk and Audit panel for quite a number of years, 2 or 3 years, and I think that at this point in time, with changes that we are undertaking, it's quite good to have continuity in relation to committee members. Risk and audit is not only financial risk assessment, but it's of course all the risks that council has to consider to run a business, but also to keep people safe and so forth. And I think I have certainly an interest in this and would like, at least for the first couple of years, to be involved with this, just so that there's some continuity and some interest in depth of knowledge and experience with local government risk.
Through you, Chair. To the CEO, any elected rep can attend the finance and government, the risk and audit panel if they so desire. No.
Through you, Acting Lord Mayor, I don't have a definitive answer on that. I do actually need to take that on notice. I do, however, know that the Lord Mayor of the day can attend. I assume others can, but I just need to confirm that. I'm not sure. So I'll take that on notice. Thank you.
Further discussion, or can we put this to the vote? So we need 2, so you can vote for 2 people. All right, so to Councillor Elliott. Those in favour?
Alderman Barakis, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lohberger, Councillor Harvey.
To Alderman Bloomfield?
Barakis, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Passelt, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Councillor Harvey,
and myself.
Councillor Elliott, Councillor Passelt, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor and Lord Mayor. Alderman Bloomfield and Deputy Lord Mayor were elected.
Okay, thank you. So who moved that motion? We had anybody move it? Can I have somebody move that, please? Councillor Sherlock and Councillor Dutta. Put that. Those in favour. Those against. Item is carried. Item 20 is a motion to move into the closed portion. Alderman Barakis?
I did just have a question.
Oh, yes.
Apologies. I'm not to risk extending the meeting out any longer. Just on the topic of like the advisory committees, are they no longer going ahead under the new system? Like the access advisory and the housing with dignity and all those sort of different committees. What's
CEO?
Thank you. So through you, Acting Lord Mayor, so we're doing a review of those at the moment, and there will be a report coming to Council early in the new year where we look at which ones sort of line up with portfolio areas. So it's just about getting the order of things right. So we didn't want to predetermine you resolving a portfolio model, but we have got a number of those that we've been reviewing, and we'll be reporting to Council in the new year about which ones we recommend going forward, where they might fit into portfolio streams of work, etc. Yep. Thank you.
The delegate for the Maritime Museum, do we know who's, how that works? I know Alderman Briscoe was the delegate previously. Yeah, so just to confirm, so the answer to that is that we'd need to take that on notice and provide a response. I think the clarification that needs to be made tonight is that we've just focused on those statutory appointments that were required. Other membership will come at the time, really early in the new year, as I've said, in response to Alderman Barakas's question. They'll come early in the new year to Council as a complete set of committees with recommendations. Okay, thanks for that clarification. So a motion to move into the closed portion. Alderman Barakas, Councillor Harvey. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? Items carried, and I thank everybody.